Hey champs of Examsnet, welcome to our new series of chapter-wise discussion where we were discussing the chapters of class 11th biology. And in the previous session, we have completed the fourth chapter, that is the animal kingdom. And today, in this session, we are going to start the fifth chapter, that is morphology of the flowering plants. So let's start the session. So morphology of the flowering plants. Now every time we start a new topic, first we try to analyze the name of the topic, right? Because the name itself gives you a basic idea of what you are going to study. So here we will focus on the word morphology. What does the word morphology mean? So here we can break this word into two parts. First one is morpho and the second one is logy. Morpho means what? It means external appearance. Okay, so morpho means external appearance, external appearance, and the word logy means study. So morphology is the study of the external appearance. Okay, here we have to study the morphology of flowering plants. Flowering plants means angiosperms. So we have to discuss the external appearance of the flowering plants. And when we say external appearance, we mean the external appearance of each part of the plant, such as roots, its stems, leaves, flowers, etc. Okay, so we will be studying about the external structures and even the functions of different parts of the plants. Okay. Now we know that there are variety of plants, right? And do all the plants have similar structures? Do the roots of all the plants are similar, or their stems are similar, or their leaves are similar? No, not at all. Okay, there's a huge variety. You can see that the leaves of one plant is different from the leaves of other plants. Why? Because different plants are adapted to different climatic conditions or different environments. Okay, some plants are meant to grow in dry areas, some plants are meant to grow in marshy areas. Okay, so this way their body their parts, the parts of the plant such as leaves, stems, roots will also be modified, okay, accordingly according to the situation. So here we will also be discussing about the adaptations of the plants, because adaptations will uh, affect the parts of the plants. Okay, it will affect the different structures of the plants, or it will affect the external appearance of the plants. Okay, we will see how. Now you can look at this figure. This figure is also given in the NCERT. So let me zoom this figure. This is important. From this figure only we will give a base, we will get a basic idea of different parts of the plants. So let's start from the bottom. Here you can see there is ground. Okay, this is the ground. This is the ground, right? You can see that some part of the plant is located below the ground, and this is none other than the root of the plant. Okay, below the ground there is only one part that is found, that is mainly root. Okay, sometimes other part can also be found under the ground, that we will discuss, but mainly in majority of the plants the part that is located below the ground is the root of the plant. Okay, now in this root also you can see that there is a primary root, there is a main branch of this root that is thicker than the other branches. Okay, right in between. So this main branch of the root is known as the primary root. Now from this primary root you can see on the either sides there are branches of roots arising. Okay, so these are known as secondary roots. Okay, suppose this is the main branch of the root, so this is the primary root, primary. From here lateral branches will be arising. So these are known as secondary, or we can write 2 degree. 2 degree means secondary. From these secondary roots again some branches will be arising. So they will be known as tertiary roots. Okay. So there is a one primary root. From that primary root secondary branches will be arising. That will be secondary roots. And from those secondary branches tertiary branches will be arising. These are known as tertiary roots. Okay. So under the ground, what will you find? You will find the primary roots, secondary roots, and tertiary roots. So all these roots together are known as the root system. Okay. So the root system consists of the primary root, secondary root, and tertiary roots. Okay. But in different plants, different types of roots are found. It is not necessary that all the plants will have primary, secondary, and tertiary roots. Some plants might have only primary roots. So we will discuss when we'll discuss the root. Okay. Now let's move above the ground. Above the ground, which parts are present? All the parts of the plants other than the root are present above the ground. So the most common is the stem. Okay, so this is the stem coming out of the ground. From this stem, you can see there is a small lump-like structure. Can you see this lump-like structure? This is known as the bud. Okay, here bud is labeled. This is the bud. On some intervals, you can see this lump-like structure present. So these are known as the buds. And the locations or the positions of the plant where these buds are located are known as nodes. Okay, so node is also given here. This is the node, and at the nodes, buds are developed. Okay, and at the same position you can see that leaves are also present. So actually it is these buds which give rise to the leaves of the plants. Okay, and where are they located? They are located at the nodes of the plants. So nodes are the position at which the buds are developed, and these buds later on give rise to the leaves. Okay, now, the distance between two nodes, you can see the minimum distance. Suppose this is one node, this is another node. So the distance between these two nodes are known as internode. Okay, so this is the internode, that is the distance between two nodes. So let's write it down here. What is node? Node is the point at which point at which a bud develops. A bud develops. And what is a bud? It is a small bulging part of the plant or a lump-like structure which develops at the node. Okay, and this bud will give rise to the leaves and later on to the branches. Okay, because you can see this is a small plant, this is a baby plant, right? When this plant will grow up and it will become a tree, then these leaves will be converted into branches. Okay, so these branches are also developed from the buds. Initially they were only buds. Now another thing that we have to remember, that the roots develop from the lower part of the plant, and that part which leads to the formation of the root is known as radicle. So what is radicle? Radicle is the part which gives rise to the roots. Okay, so the roots develop from the radicle, whereas the shoot develops from the plumule. So what is plumule? It gives rise to the shoot. Okay, so suppose this is the initial seed. Suppose this is the seed. There will be a part of seed here and a part of seed this side. Okay, so this part is known as plumule. It will give rise to the shoot. Okay, shoot will develop from this plumule, and this lower part is the radicle which will give rise to the root. Okay, so root develops from the radicle and shoot develops from the plumule. This you have to remember. And definitely all the different parts of the plant such as flowers, leaves will be part of the shoot only. Okay, so all these eventually are part of the plumule. Now, what are the parts we have to discuss? We have already discussed the roots, we have discussed the stem, then leaves are there, buds are there, at which buds which give rise to the formation of the leaves. Nodes are the point at which the buds develop. The distance between the two nodes is known as internode. Then flower is also present here. All these together, the leaves, the flowers, the stems, the nodes, the buds, all these aerial parts together are known as the shoot system. Okay, so these are parts of the shoot system. So root system consists of only different types of roots such as primary root, secondary root and tertiary roots, whereas the shoot system comprises all the other parts of the plant such as the stems, the leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. Okay, so this much you have to understand here. Now let's proceed. Internode we have not written. This is the distance between the two consecutive nodes. Distance or the minimum distance between two consecutive nodes. Let's scroll it down here. Two consecutive nodes. Now, we'll start with the root. Okay, we will be discussing each part of the plant. So first we come to the root. As we have discussed that the roots are composed of primary root, secondary root and tertiary root. Actually, this is not the case in all the plants, but in general, So here you can see on the left hand side we have a diagram. Here you can see there is the main branch of the root that is red in color. Okay, so this red color main branch of the root is the primary taproot. Why is it taproot? Because this type of root system in which there is primary, secondary and tertiary roots, these are known as taproots. Okay, so this is primary taproot. Then from this primary branch, that is the red color branch, you can see on the lateral sides, different branches are arising. These are secondary taproots. And from these secondary taproots, again small, here you can see, let me zoom. Okay, now you can see in detail. Okay, so red color is the primary root. From this red color root, secondary roots are arising, and again from secondary roots here you can see very small branches are arising. These are the tertiary roots. Okay. Now, as we have discussed that this type of root is known as taproot. And there are many other type of roots. This is not the only type of root that is found in the plants. Tap root system is one of the types of the root. Second type is the fibrous root. Okay. So here in this figure, it is written that there are two types of root systems in the plants. So mainly there are tap root system and there is fibrous root system. Other than this, there are adventitious roots also that we will discuss. Here you can see the difference between the tap root and the fibrous root. Tap root, as you can see, that there will be primary root. Again, we have discussed it many times. Then lateral roots are arising from it. It can be secondary. Then from that secondary, tertiary roots will be arising. So this type of root is known as tap root system. What is fibrous root system? Here you can see you cannot find a single main branch of the root. Okay, can you differentiate between the two pictures? In the first picture there is a main thick branch, but in the second picture there is no main thick branch. It is the base of the stem, and from this base of the stem all the roots are arising which are of similar size. Okay, so all these roots look similar, so these are actually the fibers. Okay, these are fibers. So a large number of fibers are coming at the base of the stem. So this type of root system is known as fibrous root system. There is no primary root, secondary root or tertiary roots. Okay. So these are the two types of root systems that we studied. Here you can see some of the examples through this figure. Okay. So carrot, turnip, all these are tap roots. Okay. Whereas on this right side, you can see there are fibrous roots. So in fibrous root, you cannot find a single main branch. Okay. All the branches are similar. So all these are fibers which are arising at the base of the stem. So these are the fibrous root. Okay. Now, other than the tap root and the fibrous root, there are other types of roots known as adventitious roots. Okay. These are known as adventitious roots. One of the example of adventitious roots is banyan. This is the banyan tree, as you can see. Here, the roots are coming from the branches of the tree, right? Generally, what happens? The roots are present below the ground. But here, these roots are present above the ground. Okay, so there will be some modifications and roots, and in other parts of the plants also you will see some modifications like these. So these roots, why are they arising from the branch of the tree? Their function is to provide support to the plant. Okay, so here the roots are providing support to the plant, and they are specifically known as the prop root. So the roots of the banyan tree are known as prop roots, which are hanging from the branches of the plant. Why? Because they provide the support. Okay, and these are the aerial roots. Just remember the aerial roots. What if it is asked what are prop roots? So these are the aerial roots which are meant to provide support to the plant. Okay, these are known as prop roots. We will be studying about other types of roots as well. Let's see. Here we will summarize what we have already discussed. So we have discussed about three types of roots. First one is the tap root, second one is the fibrous root, and the third one is the adventitious roots. What did we study in the tap root? We studied that the tap root consists of the main branch known as the primary root. Then there will be secondary roots and tertiary roots. Okay, so tap root system consists of the primary root, secondary root, and tertiary root. Second one was fibrous root, which has only primary root, only primary, no secondary and tertiary. But even this primary root is very short lived. Okay, so suppose this is the base of the stem. Here, a primary root is there. Okay, this is the primary root, but it is very short lived. So it will eventually gives rise to various fiber like structures. Okay, this primary root will not exist after some time. Okay, so only thing visible will be the fibers, various fibers. So this primary root is short lived. And what about adventitious roots? We have studied that the roots arise from which part of the plant? They arise from the radicle of the plant. So these tap roots and fibrous roots, both type of roots arise from the radicle of the plant. But adventitious roots are those roots which arise from other parts of the plant. Okay, so they arise from parts other than the radicle. So which root does not arise from the radicle of the plant? It is adventitious roots. Okay. So adventitious roots do not arise from the radicle of the plant. Now what will be the examples? So you can remember simply that the dicots, most of the dicots that we see have tap root system. Okay, they will have the primary, secondary and tertiary roots. Mustard is one of the examples of dicot plants. Fibrous roots are mainly found in the monocots such as wheat. Okay, and then the adventitious roots, there are various examples of adventitious roots. For example, banyan, we have already seen the picture right now. You would also have seen the banyan tree. So banyan tree have the adventitious roots because these are not arising from the radicle of the plant. They are arising from the stem or the branch of the plant, branches of the plants. Okay, then monstera, that is a type of grass. It also has the adventitious roots. Then some other type of grasses. Then sweet potato. In sweet potato, the roots are modified for food storage. Okay, so generally the roots are not meant for storage of food. Okay, but in some cases you will see that they are modified to perform this function. Which function? The storage of food. Sweet potato is one of the examples. We will be discussing about the functions of the roots also. Don't worry. Here just remember the examples, which one has taproot, which one has fibrous root, and which one has adventitious roots. So dicots will have the taproot, monocots will have the fibrous roots, and some of the trees such as banyan, monstera, sweet potato, and asparagus will have the adventitious roots. Okay. In asparagus also, the root is modified for food storage. Now we will be discussing in detail about the functions of the roots. So what are the functions of the roots? First of all, we know that the plants, unlike the animals, stand on one place. Okay, they are fixed on the ground, whereas animals move around. Okay, plants are unable to move around, right? So they have to stand on the place. Suppose this is the ground, this is the plant. They have to stand continuously throughout their life, right? So how will they stand on this small area of the land? There must be some support provided to them. So these roots act as the support. These roots help in keeping the plant fixed on the ground. Okay, so we can say that the roots keep the plant attached to the ground. Okay, so this is known as encouragement. This is the first function of the root. If roots will not be present, then what will happen? The plants will not be able to stand on the ground, right? So this is most important function. Second most important function is the absorption of water and minerals. We know that the roots absorb water and minerals from the soil. If you water your plants, which part of the plant you water? You do not water the plants on the leaves or stems. You water them at the roots, right? Why? Because roots are able to absorb the water and minerals from there and then transport it to different parts of the plants. Okay, so these two are the most important functions of the roots. Third function is food storage, as we have seen when we were discussing the adventitious roots. There we saw that in sweet potato, the root is modified to perform the function of food storage. Okay, in asparagus also they perform the food storage, but this is not the most important function of the roots. Okay, this is one of the functions that it can perform. See, just remember one thing. If we talk about the same simple plant, the normal plant, for example, let's say mango tree. Okay, there the most important function of the root will be encouragement and absorption of water and minerals. Okay, other than that, it also will store food. Some amount of food will be stored in the roots. Why? Because when the leaves perform photosynthesis and they prepare their food, they also transport some of the food materials to other parts of the plant, such as stems and roots. Okay, so some amount of food will always be present in the stems and roots both, right? But this food storage is different from the food storage of the sweet potato. Why? Because in this case, in the mango tree, the food storage will be very less. Okay, the food, very less amount of food will be stored in the roots of the mango tree. Whereas in sweet potato, the roots have been developed just to perform this function. Okay, so there is a difference. So in general plants, food storage can be performed by roots, but it is not the main function. But in some special plants, food storage is the main function of the roots. Then another function is the synthesis of the plant growth hormone. PGR means plant growth hormone. Plant growth hormone. So we know that some hormones, for example, auxin, is found at the tip of the root and shoot. Auxin is found at the tip of the roots and shoot. Why they are found at the tip of the root and shoot? Because they help in increasing the length. Okay, so this is, suppose this is the shoot. Here auxin will be present. This will help in increasing the length of the stem, and at the root also they will be present at the tip and help in the increase of the length of the root. Okay, so these roots will also help in the synthesis of these hormones. But you have to remember, in general, the most important function will be encouragement and the absorption of water and minerals. Now we come to the modifications of foods. So we discussed that in general, some amount of food will always be stored in the roots and the stems. But in some cases, the roots can be modified to specially perform this function. Okay. Similarly, in other plants, they can be modified to perform some other functions. So first, common function for which the roots are modified is the food storage. As we have discussed that in carrot and turnip, the roots are modified to store the food. Okay, so these are the tap roots. Carrot and turnip are the tap roots, which are modified to perform the function of food storage. Then there are some adventitious roots such as sweet potato and asparagus, which also perform the same function, that is the storage of food. Then other than the food storage, the roots can be modified to provide support to the plant. One of the examples that we already saw is the banyan tree. We know that the roots of the banyan tree, which are hanging from the branches, are known as prop roots. Okay, why? Because these are the aerial roots that provide support to the plants. Okay, so here the roots are modified to give support to the plant. Okay, so here the main function will be support, not the absorption of water and minerals. Okay. Other than prop, there are stilt roots which are also modified to give support to the plant. And stilt root are found in the sugarcane and maize. So what are stilt root? See, in the prop root, we saw that the prop roots will be the aerial roots. These are found at the upper part of the plant. Okay. Whereas the stilt root are found at the lower part of the plant. So here you can see the figure. In the first figure, you can see the sugarcane. So this is the sugar cane, and if you have seen the sugar cane closely, then you would have observed these structures at the bottom of the sugar cane. So what are these structures? These structures are actually the roots, and these are known as the stilt root. Okay, so this and this both are stilt roots. On the left hand side, it is the sugar cane. On the right hand side, it is the root of the maize. Okay, this is the maize. So in both these, one thing is common, that the roots are arising from the lower parts of the stem, or you can say these are arising from the lower nodes of the stem. Okay, why they are arising at this position? To provide support, because we know that the sugar cane is very thin. The stem of the sugar cane is very thin. In other plants, the stem, the main stem or the bark of the tree is very thick, right? But here it is very thin and long. So it might fall down. Okay, so it is important to provide support to these plants, and the roots of these plants are meant to provide support so that the plant can stand on the ground for a long time. Okay, so this was another function of the root, which is the modified function of the root. First one, to store the food. Second one, to provide support to the plant. Third one, respiration. Okay, so sometimes the roots can also be modified to perform respiration. And why they are specially modified to perform respiration? Because these type of roots are found in the marshy areas. Okay, and in marshy areas the soils are waterlogged. Okay, they are the waterlogged areas, and due to this oxygen is not available below the ground. Okay, so there is less availability of oxygen, less availability of oxygen below the ground or under the ground. This is why the roots have to come out to get that oxygen for respiration. Okay, so here you can see these are the roots that are coming out from the ground. Okay, these are coming out aerially. Okay, so in general the roots are found underground, but sometimes they can be modified for special functions, and therefore they can be found even above the ground. Okay, so these are one of the types of roots, and these roots are known as pneumatophores, and these are found in the rhizophore. Okay, so these type of roots are known as pneumatophores. So we have learnt the names of different types of roots, such as prop roots, which are found in banyan tree, stilt root that are found in maize and sugarcane, and then pneumatophore, which are found in the rice. Okay, so let's revise again. What were the prop roots? Prop roots are the roots which are found in the aerial part of the plant. Okay, and they are meant to provide support. These are found in the banyan tree. Stilt roots are those roots which are found, which grow at the lower nodes of the stem or lower part of the stem. These also provide the support to the stem. Okay, and then pneumatophore, which are modified to get oxygen from the air. Okay, and to get oxygen from the air they come out of the ground aerially. Okay, so these are the different types of roots that we discussed. Now we will discuss the regions of the roots. This diagram is given in your NCERT. You must have seen this diagram. So here we will be discussing different regions of the roots from the bottom to the top. Okay, so look at this diagram at the bottom. Let me scroll down. At the bottom, you can see there is a cap-like structure. Okay. So why this cap-like structure is present? We know that the root length will increase continuously, right? The length of the root and shoot both increase continuously. So in order to increase the length of the root, some cells are present which continuously divide to increase the length. Okay, so these are known as the meristematic cells. What are they known as? Meristematic cells. You can understand how important these cells are, because if these cells will not divide, then the roots will not increase in length. Okay, so in order to protect these meristematic cells, there is a cap-like structure or a thimble-like structure that develops. It protects these meristematic cells. Okay, so what are root cap? These are known as the root cap. Okay, so this is a thimble-like structure which protects the root, especially the meristematic cells of the root. Okay, then since this root cap is slightly hard as compared to the other part of the roots, therefore it also helps in making a root's way through the soil, because this root has to move downwards through the soil. Okay, so it has to be strong. So this root cap also provides the strength to the root to move downwards. Okay, so there are two functions: to protect the root and to make its way throughout the soil. Now, above this region, above this root cap, you can see some small cells are present, which I have already told, these are the meristematic cells. So the location or the region where these cells are located is known as the region of meristematic activity. Okay, so meristematic activity is going on there. That means repeated cell division is going on. Okay, these cells are continuously dividing. Okay, now since they are continuously dividing, these cells have to be very active, right? And they have to be very small. So initially they will be very small. After division, they will get enlarged. Okay. So initially they are small cells and they have dense protoplasm, because in order to carry out continuous division, they have to have the energy. Okay. And due to this, dense protoplasm will be required for this. Then they will also have large nucleus, because we know that the cell division is controlled by the nucleus of the cell. We will discuss this in the chapter cell. But you might be aware that the main part of the cell that controls the cell division is the nucleus, because the nucleus contains the genetic material. Okay. So nucleus has to be very large. Okay. Large nucleus will mean better cell division. Okay. Then they will also have thin cell walls. Why these cells will have thin cell walls? Because they have to divide. If the cells will be thick, then what will happen? It will provide rigidity to them. If they will be rigid, then cell division will become difficult. So they have to be very flexible. Okay, and the cell wall has to be thin in order to carry out better cell division. So these have thin cell walls, and then they have abundant plasmodesmatal connections. Plasmodesmatal connections are the cytoplasmic connections between two cells. Suppose this is one cell and this is another cell. So they have the cytoplasmic connections. Through this connection, they can exchange the materials. Okay, they can exchange the useful substances. So in during the cell division, it can be required that they need some materials which are not present in adequate amount, so they might exchange it from the neighboring cells. For that exchange, plasmodesmatal connections are important. Okay, so this is important. What will be the characteristics of these meristematic cells? They will be small in size, then they will have dense protoplasm to provide them energy for cell division. They will have large nucleus, because nucleus is the main center of the cell division. It controls the cell division. Then they will have thin cell walls, so that they do not they are not rigid. Okay, then they have abundant plasmodesmatal connections. So all these characteristics are important. You have to remember them. Okay. Now, above the region of meristematic activity is the region of elongation. Let's have a look at this diagram again. At the bottom, we had the root cap. Above this, we had the region of meristematic activity where meristematic cells were present. And above this, region of elongation is there. This is the region of the elongation. At this region, the cells have already divided. Okay, so from this region of meristematic activity, the cells will divide and then they will be moving upwards. Okay, the divided cells will move upward towards the region of elongation. Okay, so at this region, the cells will also get enlarged. We have studied that at the region of the meristematic activity, the cells will be very small. But when they have already divided, now they do not need to divide anymore. Then they can now increase their size and they can also get thickened. Okay, so they will be found at the region of elongation. So what type of cells will be found at the region of elongation? Elongated cells will be found, or enlarged cells will be found, and these cells will also have cell walls. Okay, these cells will be rigid, whereas the cells of the meristematic region will be flexible. Okay, so region of elongation, here the cells will be elongated, and when the cells will get elongated, vacuolation will also increase. We have studied that the plant cells have very large nucleus. Suppose this is a plant cell. In a plant cell, the vacuole, sorry, I said nucleus, it will be vacuole. So vacuole can occupy around 90% of the space of the plant cell. It is not the case in animal cell. Okay, there the vacuoles are small, but in plant cells, vacuoles can occupy around 90% of the space. So if the cells will get elongated, their vacuoles will also get elongated. So vacuolation will increase. So if it is asked that in which region of the root the vacuolation increases, it is the region of elongation. It will not happen at the region of meristematic activity, because there the cells are very small. Okay, at the region of elongation, the cells will get enlarged or elongated. Therefore, vacuolation will increase at this region. Okay, region of elongation. Then cell wall deposition will also increase because now the cells have already divided. They don't need to divide further. So now they can become rigid. Okay. So at the region of elongation, the cells are rigid. Cell walls are rigid. So the plant parts are also rigid as compared to the lower parts. Okay. Then above that region of elongation, there is region of maturation. Okay. So this is the characteristic of region of maturation. What will happen at the region of maturation? Root hairs will grow. Okay. So which part of the root has root hairs? It is the region of maturation. At that part, the cells are very matured. Okay. And root hair is an indication of maturation. Even in human beings, when you get matured, after adolescence, then the hairs start growing on your body, on different parts of your body, right? These hairs were not present at the when you were a child. Why? Because that time you were not matured. So root hairs are also part of the maturation. Okay, so these are found in the region of maturation. And why these root hairs are found? These root hairs will increase the surface area of the root. Okay, surface area will increase so that maximum absorption of water and minerals can be done. Okay, then when surface area will increase, absorption will definitely increase. We discussed. So this was all about the roots. Now let's come to the next part, that is the stem. Okay, so roots were present below the ground or underground. Stems are present above the ground. In roots, we discussed that although in general the roots are found underground, but some roots can be modified to perform some special functions and they can be found above the ground as well. Similarly, in stem also, normally they are found above the ground, but if they are modified, then they can also be found under the ground. Okay, so we will study. In general, we can say that the stem is the ascending part of the axis because this is the case in majority of the plants. Okay, so these are ascending part of the axis, whereas the roots are descending part in general. These stems bears the branches, leaves, flowers and fruits. So all these parts are found on the stem only. Okay, and we have already discussed that the stem develops from the plumule of the embryo of germinating seed. Okay, I had explained to you, seed has two parts. The upper part is the plumule, the lower part is the radicle. Okay, so the radicle gives rise to the root system and the plumule gives rise to the shoot system. Okay, so the stem also develops from the plumule of the embryo of germinating seed. Then the stem bears the nodes and internodes. What are nodes? Nodes are the point where there is development of bud, and buds give rise to the leaves and the branches of the tree. And internode is the distance between the two consecutive nodes. So these are also present on the stem. They also bear buds, and the buds can be terminal and axillary. What do we mean by terminal or axillary? See, axillary means, suppose this is the stem. So if the bud is found on either side of the plant like this, these are known as the axillary bud. Whereas if the bud is present on the top or the tip of the stem, then this is known as the terminal bud. Suppose this is the terminal bud. Terminal. Terminal means it is located at the top or the apex. Okay. So here you can see that if we take a stem, how many terminal buds are possible? Only one terminal bud is possible. Okay, because there is only one tip of the stem. Okay, there cannot be more than one tip. Whereas the number of axillary buds can be very large. For example, they can be thousands in number, hundreds in numbers. Okay, because they can be numerous axillary buds that can arise on a stem. Okay, so suppose the bud has to give rise to thorns. Okay, suppose. So which bud, terminal bud or axillary bud, which one will give rise to the thorns? Obviously, axillary bud will give rise, because if terminal bud will give rise to the thorn, there will be a single thorn. So it will not be effective. Okay. So axillary bud will give rise to the thorn so that there will be numerous thorns present on the plants. Okay. So whatever is developed from the axillary bud, they can be numerous. Whereas if something is developed from the terminal bud, it will be only one in number. Okay. Now we know that when the stem is young, then it is green in color. And when it gets old, it becomes woody and dark brown. And why is it so? Because when a plant is small, then it has very few leaves. Okay, the number of leaves are very small in the young plants. So in that case, the amount of food that will be produced by the photosynthesis will be very less, right? So in that case, the stem is green in color, so that along with the leaves, the stem will also perform the photosynthesis, and they can together make large amount of food. But when the plant grows larger, it becomes woody. Then a large number of leaves are present. So these large number of leaves are enough. They are capable of making enough food for themselves through the photosynthesis. In that case, the stem does not require to make food. Okay. So this is the reason why it is green in young plants and dark brown and woody in the large plants. What is the function of stem? Now, most of the function you already know, okay, but we have to study in this chapter. So we will discuss origin of the branches. We know that the branches originate from the stem only, okay. So origin of branches, then support structure. Obviously, the stem is the main support structure of the plant, right? Then storage of food. We have discussed, when we were discussing the roots, we discussed that the leaves perform photosynthesis, they prepare their food, okay. Then they also transfer some amount of food to the roots and stems, so the stems will also be storing the food, okay. Then transportation. Transportation is again one of the important function of the stem, because when leaves will be preparing their food and they will be transporting it to the root, the transport will take place through the stem only, right? And when the roots will absorb water and minerals from the soil, they will also transport it to other parts of the plants through the stem only. So stem is the main region of the transportation, main source of the transportation in different parts of the plants. So it helps in the transportation of water and minerals that are absorbed by the roots from the soil. Then they are also helpful in transporting the food that is made through the photosynthesis by the leaves, okay. Then the last function is reproduction. How does a stem help in reproduction? You might think that there is no way we can think that the stem helps in reproduction. Actually, we know that we have heard the word vegetative propagation, right? Vegetative propagation. So you would have tried this at home if you cut the stem of a rose plant and then you take that stem to your home, and using that stem you can grow another rose plant. Okay, so this way the stem also help in reproduction or the vegetative propagation. Okay. Now, similar to the roots, the stems are also sometimes modified to perform functions other than its main function, right? So, first function is the underground stem for food storage, okay? So, in general, what did we discuss? That the stems are the ascending part of the plant. These are found on the above the ground, okay? But sometimes these can be found below the ground or under the ground. The best examples are ginger, potatoes, colocasia, onion. Other than this, there is zameen kan, which is mentioned in the NCERT. So this also you have to remember. You have to remember all the examples that are mentioned in the NCERT. Okay. So these are the stems. Ginger is not a fruit. Ginger is a stem. Potato is not a fruit. It is the stem of the plant. Okay. And this is modified to store the food in it. Therefore, it looks like this. In order to store food, they have to be large enough. Okay. Therefore, these are the swollen type of stem. Normally, the stem look like this, but when they have to store food, they get swollen so that maximum amount of food is stored inside their body. Okay. So all these are the examples of underground stem which are modified to store the food. Then there are other functions also for which they can be modified. This can be perennation or vegetative propagation. Why I have written this perennation and vegetative propagation? Because on the right side you can see the diagram. This diagram is mentioned in the NCERT. Okay. Here you can see on the figure number D. This is oxalis. This is the plant oxalis. So nothing is written about it in the book, but this figure is given. So you cannot miss even the figure of the NCERT. Okay. So this is oxalis, SP you can see here. Here the stems are involved in the vegetative propagation. So here at the bottom it will be written that this is the organ of perennation and vegetative propagation. So here you have to remember this. The stems are modified to perform the vegetative propagation. And why they help in vegetative propagation, or how they help in vegetative propagation? If you look at this figure closely, you will see that the stem runs horizontally on the ground. Generally, the stem is upward, it is upright. But in this oxalis plant, the stem is horizontal. And this is very long and it can spread very fast. This way it helps in the vegetative propagation. Okay. So you have to remember this because it is mentioned in the NCERT. Oxalis is the In case of oxalis, the stem is modified for vegetative reproduction or vegetative propagation. This is the closer look of the oxalis. Okay, these are the leaves of the oxalis. Now, the next one is tendrils. Sometimes the stems are modified into tendrils, which provides support to the plant. Okay, so here you can see the picture of the tendril. You must have seen the stem of the grape vines or cucumber or pumpkin or bottle gourds. All these cases, the stems are modified to form the tendrils. So tendrils look like this. Here you can see the stem tendril of the pumpkin. It is not an upright stem. Okay, this is a creepy structure. So in tendrils, what happens? The stem develops into a creepy structure. Creepy. Okay, it can be grown on the ground, or it can be sometimes these creepy structures creep along the wall also, okay, to provide them support. Now the next modification of stem can be in the form of thorns. Okay, so sometimes the stems are modified into thorns to protect them from the animals. Okay, so here you can see the figure. This stem is modified into the thorn. Okay, you can see the small thorns here. Okay, and the examples of such stems will be bougainvillea and citrus. Okay, so what is most important here? The examples are most important. Okay, other things can easily be understood. These are not difficult to understand. The concept is less, facts are more, the examples are more. So that is important, because all the examples are actually, we get confused between all the examples, okay? Because there are so many examples. How can you remember all of them? So you have to revise them continuously to remember the examples. Okay. Then in some plants, these stems are modified to perform the photosynthesis. Generally, which part of the plant perform the photosynthesis? The leaves perform the photosynthesis for preparing their food. But in cases where leaves cannot perform photosynthesis, in that case, stems can be modified to do that work. Okay, for example, if we talk about the dry areas such as deserts, then what happens in deserts? The leaves of the plants are not very broad, they are very thin. They are modified into thorns or spines. Why the leaves of desert plants are modified into thorns or spines? In order to conserve water. Okay, because less amount of water is available in dry areas, so in order to conserve water, the leaves are reduced to form the spines or thorns. In that case, who will perform the photosynthesis? So the stems will be modified to perform the photosynthesis. So two types of stems can be there which perform the photosynthesis. First one is flat type of stem, and this type of stem are found in opuntia. This first diagram or the first figure is of that of opuntia. So this is opuntia. And there is a second way also that the stems can be modified. They can become cylindrical in shape. So in the second figure, you can see there are cylindrical stem. So these are found in euphorbia. Okay, euphorbia. Both of them perform the same function, that is the photosynthesis, because leaves are not there to perform that function. Okay, so this way the plants are adapted to different environmental conditions. That's why we had discussed that we will be studying the adaptations of the plant as well, along with the external appearance of the plants, right? So we have seen the examples where the stem perform the function of food storage. We have seen where stem performs the vegetative propagation. We have seen where the stem perform photosynthesis. Now there are some other type of stems that you might be unaware of, okay, because these are lesser common names such as runner. What do we mean by runner? Runner are those stems which run horizontally on the ground. So suppose this is the ground. In general, the stems are upright on the ground, right? But these runner run horizontally on the ground like this, along the ground. We had seen the example of oxalis, which in which the stem is responsible for vegetative reproduction. That is also a type of runner. Okay, so that stem is also a type of runner, and it is mainly found in grass and strawberry. So examples of runner will be grass and strawberry. Here you can see that this is the stem. Okay, this part is the stem. Again, I'll zoom in. You can see this. This is the strawberry plant. Okay, roots are located below the ground and stem is running along the ground horizontally, and here it is giving rise to another roots and another plant. Okay, so this new plant is arising from the stem of the previous plant. So this type of stem is known as the runner. So we have discussed that the runners are also, this type of stems are also source of vegetative propagation. This is how they help in vegetative propagation. They move from one place to another horizontally along the ground. There a new plant develops. Okay, they give rise to new roots and new plants. Okay, so here the example is grass and strawberry. The oxalis is also one of the examples. Okay, so this is known as runner. Now next type of stem is known as stolon. Although in the this figure in the strawberry plant you can see that the runner is written and under bracket stolon is written. So sometimes runner and stolon words are used interchangeably, but there can be minute difference between the runner and the stolon. Both run horizontally. Okay, what is the difference between the runner and stolon? See, stolon is also running horizontally along the ground. Runner is also running horizontally along the ground. It can be said that the runner is a long stolon. Okay, you can say that the runner is a long stolon. And the main function of runner or the speciality of the runner is that it can be helpful in vegetative reproduction or vegetative propagation. And why it can be helpful in vegetative propagation? Because it spreads very fast. Okay, runner spreads very fast. One of the examples we had seen oxalis plant, and here we have seen the example of runner as the strawberry and grasses. Okay, so grass and strawberry also have which type of stem? Runner stem. Okay, and if it is asked in which plants stolon is found, then you have to write mint and jasmine. Although stolon and runner are similar to each other. Okay, so this is one of the example. The first example you can see, this is oxalis. So in oxalis, the stem can be called as runner or stolon, but here we have written it separately. In the next plant, you can see stolon. Okay, so what is the okay? So first figure was of oxalis, which is showing the runner, and the second figure is the fragaria that is showing the stolon. So here I had added this picture to differentiate between the runner and the stolon. Okay, so runner you can see. Suppose this is the ground. This is the ground. Okay, in first case I'll draw the runner. So runner is running along the ground like this. Simply there is no particular shape in which the runner will be running, but in case of stolon it will come like this. It will form an arc like structure above the ground, and then again it will touch the ground. Okay, so initially it was touching the ground, then it moved up, and again it moved downward and touched the ground. So if the runner is in this particular form, this will be known as the stolon. Okay, so this is the main difference between the runner and the stolon. Otherwise, these words are often used interchangeably. Okay, So here you have to remember the examples. If the example of a runner is asked, then you can write oxalis, you can write grass, you can write strawberry. Okay. If the example of stolon is asked, then you can write mint and jasmine. Okay. So because you have to remember the examples with different names, so I have mentioned this. But both have the common feature, they run horizontally along the ground. Okay. Then the last type is sucker. In case of runner and in case of stolon, we saw that the stem was running horizontally, but it was running above the ground. But in case of sucker, the stem will be present below the ground or under the ground, but it will be running again horizontally only. Okay, so if it is running horizontally above the ground, it can be runner or stolon. If it is running horizontally below the ground, it can be a sucker. Okay, so what will be the specialty of sucker? If this is the ground, this stem will come down, it will move horizontally below the ground, and then it will obliquely come out of the ground. Okay, in oblique shape they will come out of the ground. Okay, and here new leaves will be developed. So these type of stems are known as suckers. Why they are known as suckers? Because they suck the nutrition from the soil. Okay, so in general, this is the work of the roots, but these are the special type of stems that absorb the nutrients from the soil. Okay, and then come out obliquely above the ground. Okay, so example will be chrysanthemum, banana, and pineapple. You can see this figure number C. This is the figure of a sucker stem. Okay, you can see below the ground, the stem is running horizontally and it is obliquely coming out. Okay, then the last one is offset. Offset is generally found in the aquatic plants, and you can see what is the specialty of offset. Offset is also again a horizontal stem, but it is found in the water. Okay, in the aquatic environment. And again, another specialty will be that it will have a rosette of leaves, which will look very beautiful like a flower. Okay, and below they will have tuft of roots. The most common example of such plants is the water hyacinth, which is also known as Eichhornia. Okay, Eichhornia is the name of water hyacinth plant. Okay, water hyacinth you must have heard of. Water hyacinth. So which type of stem do they have? They have the offset stem. Okay. So you have to revise it again because you will get confused if you do not revise. Okay, what did we discuss? Which type of stems we discussed? We discussed the runner, we discussed the stolon, we discussed the sucker, and we discussed the offset. Okay, there are very little differences among them. Okay, runner and stolon both run above the ground horizontally. Okay, but the difference is that the stolon runs in a specific manner. It will come like this above. Okay, it will move up and then it will move downwards. Okay, but it will be present above the ground. Okay, then sucker is again moving horizontally along the ground, but the sucker moves below the ground. Okay, and then it will move obliquely upwards. And then offset is also again also a horizontal stem, but it is found in the aquatic plants. It is found below the water. Okay, so these were the little bit differences among them. You can repeat this video again if you forget this. Otherwise, you can Google search also these terms for a better understanding, because these are not explained in detail in NCERT. Okay, so you will have to search if you want to learn more about them. So we have completed the two topics, roots and stems. Now we will start with the leaf. So what are leaves? As we know that leaves arise on the side of the stems. Okay, therefore these are said to be lateral structures. Okay, lateral means these are born on the sides. For example, in our body, our hands are lateral structures or lateral appendages because these are located on the sides, on either sides of our body. Okay, similarly the leaves are the lateral structures of the plants. Okay, and these are generally flattened structures which are borne on the stem. Okay, these leaves develop at the node. This also we have discussed that on the stem there will be positions where a bud will be developed, and that position is known as the node. Okay, so these are present at the nodes, and the leaves will also bear a bud, as we already know, in its axil. Okay, and these buds are known as axillary bud. Okay, and these buds will eventually give rise to the branch when the plant will grow old. Okay, then what is the origin of the leaf? The shoot apical meristem. What are meristem? These are the cells which divide continuously. Okay, so these cells are very active in the division. So in case of roots also we had discussed that they had the meristematic cells. Those cells were known as the root apical meristems because they were present at the tip of the root. But the cells which are present at the tip of the shoot are known as the shoot apical meristem, and it is these shoot apical meristems or the cells that are present at the shoot apex which give rise to the different parts of the plant on the stems, okay, such as leaves. So the origin of leaf is also the shoot apical meristem. The stem also develops from the shoot apical meristem, whereas the root develops from the root apical meristem. Now, the leaves are borne in the acropetal order. What do we mean by acropetal order? So, if you look at a small plant, you will see that at the lower side, the side of the leaves will be larger. As we move upward, the size of the leaf will reduce. Okay, and on the upper side very small leaves will be present, and every time new leaves will be added, they will be added on the upper part of the stem, not the lower part of the stem. That means the leaves are first born on the lower part, and the new leaves getting added on the top of the plant or the top of the stem. Okay, so leaves are growing from lower side to upper side, and this order is known as the acropetal order. Okay, then photosynthesis. This is very simple. We all know that the main function of the leaf is to perform photosynthesis and to prepare food for the plants. Okay. So there should be no doubt here. Then these leaves are attached to the stem by the leaf base. How will these leaves be attached to the stem? With the help of the leaf base. Suppose this is the leaf. Here you can see this diagram. This is the leaf. This broader area of the leaf is known as the lamina, right? This is the stem, and the lower part of the leaf that is attaching with the stem or that is helping in attaching the leaf to the stem is the leaf base. So this is the leaf base. So how is a leaf attached to the stem? With the help of the leaf base. Okay. And they may bear two lateral stipules. What are stipules? These are small leaf-like structures. Stipules are small leaf-like structures. So in this diagram, in this figure, you can see where the leaf is attached to the stem. There is a small leaf-like structure here, like here, this one. Okay. So this side also they can be present. So it is not necessary that the leaf will have stipules. It can be present, it cannot be present. Okay, but I have written this because this is given in the NCERT. Okay, they may bear two lateral stipules. Lateral means again on the sides. Okay, now we'll discuss the parts of the leaves. So for parts of the leaves, we can see the same picture. The leaf base, what is leaf base? It is the lower part of the leaf. Just now we discussed that helps in attaching the leaf to the stem. Okay. So what is leaf base? It is the lower part of the leaf or the lowest part of the leaf that attaches the leaf to the stem. So it helps in the attachment of the leaf. Okay. Now what is important to note here that leaf base can also vary in different types of plants. In monocots, the leaf base can look different than the dicot plants. In dicot plants, the leaf base is very simple. then that just attaches the leaf to the stem. But in monocots, it can become sheath-like. Okay, it can become sheath-like structure and it can cover the stem partially or wholly. Okay, to understand this, you can look at this figure. Here you can see this is the leaf and this is the stem. Okay, this is the stem. This side is the leaf, and the base of the leaf has become like a sheath and it is covering the stem partially. Okay, so this is the characteristic of leaf base of a monocot plant. Okay, this will be seen only in the monocot, not in the dicots. Okay, then another type of leaf base can be the leaf base of the leguminous plant. Okay, so the leguminous plants can have a leaf base such that the leaf base will be swollen, okay, and it will swell and then it will be known as the pulvinus. Here I have not added the picture of the pulvinus. You can search on Google, okay. There you can see the leaf base of the leguminous plant and you will see the swollen end of the leaf, that is the pulvinus, okay. So each part of the plant will vary according to the situation or from one plant to another plant. Okay, they can be very different. So this is one thing, the leaf base and then petiole. Okay, so actually here we are discussing the parts of the leaves from lower part to the upper part. Okay, so leaf base is the lowest part of the leaf, right? Then then we will move upwards. So from this leaf base, suppose this is the stem, here is the leaf base that is attaching the leaf to the plant, to the stem. Then it will grow and it will be very thin structure that is known as petiole. Okay, so the long end of the leaf is known as the petiole. What is the function of the petiole? With the help of the petiole, the leaf can move in the air, right? So it brings fresh air to the leaf. Okay, if let's understand this, we don't have space here. Suppose this is the stem. We don't have the leaf attached to the stem directly, right? Do we have this type of leaf? No. We have a stem. Then we have a petiole here, okay? A long structure that is located below the leaf. And on that structure, the leaf is present. This is the case. This is the way the leaves are attached to the stem. So petioles are very important. Why they are important? It is the petiole with the help of which the leaf can move in the air and get fresh air. Okay. Also, this petiole adjusts the position of the leaves. Okay. So two functions of the petiole is bringing fresh air to the leaf and adjusting the position of the leaf. Okay. So we are moving from lower portion of the leaf towards the upper portion. So lowest portion was the leaf base which attaches it to the stem. Moving upward, we got this is the petiole, and then above the petiole, you will see the leaf blade, the broad portion of the leaf. The broad area of the leaf is the leaf blade because it looks like a blade. So it is leaf blade. The flat, broad area, the main part of the leaf is the leaf blade. And what is the function of the leaf blade? It gives strength to the leaf through the veins. Okay, how? You know that this is the leaf blade, right? This is the mid rib of the leaf. Okay, mid rib. And here many veins are present. Okay, veins and veinlets are present. So through these veins, the leaves get the strength. Okay, otherwise they will be very weak. Okay, leaves are very light and very thin. So in order to survive, they also need strength. So it is these veins and veinlets that provides the strength to the leaves. Okay, and these veins and veinlets are present on the leaf blade. So we can say that the leaf blade provides strength to the leaf through the veins and veinlets. Okay, and also it helps in the transport of materials because these veins and veinlets that are present in the leaves, these are the source of transportation of water and minerals. Okay, it is through these veins and veinlets that the materials will be getting transported. Okay, so these were the different parts of the leaves: leaf base, then petiole, then leaf blade. Okay, Now we come to the venation and types of leaves. So what is venation? It is the way in which these veins of the leaves are arranged. Okay, veins. Venation word has been derived from the word veins. So as we discussed that the leaves have veins which provide strength to the leaf, and they also help in the transportation of the materials, right? So how are these veins arranged? Are they arranged in the same vein on the leaves? No, their arrangement is different in case of dicot leaves and in monocot leaves. Okay, so in case of dicot there is a network of veins. Okay, so you can see this diagram. This is again from the NCERT. So there is a network of veins, okay? From the midrib, many veins are arising. From these veins again, many other veinlets are arising. From them again, many different will be arising. So there will be network of veins and veinlets. This is the case in case of dicot leaves. So if you look at any plant, let's say mango, then you can see the leaves. They will have such type of veins. So this is known as the reticulate venation. So in dicot leaves, which type of venation will be present? Reticulate. Okay. Whereas in monocot, if you look at this right side, you will see that they have parallel veins. All the veins are running parallel to each other like this. Okay. The veins are not touching or crossing each other. These are parallel to each other. So this is the type of veins that you will see in the monocot plants. Okay, and this is known as the parallel venation because the veins are running parallel to each other. So what did we discuss? There can be two types of venation. Parallel venation, when the veins run parallel to each other. These are found in the monocot plants such as wheat. And the other type of venation is reticulate venation, where there is a network of veins and veinlets. They will be crossing and intersecting each other. And this type of venation is seen in the dicot plants. Okay. Now the leaves can be simple or they can be compound. What do we mean by the simple leaves? In case of simple leaves, there is no incision and the lamina is entire. It means that suppose this is the midrib of the leaf. Okay. So from here the leaf is arising and there is a complete leaf without any incision. So this is known as a simple leaf. It is also possible that there will be incision, but the incision will not touch the midrib. Okay, so suppose this leaf starts from here. This is one incision. This is another incision, and such incisions are present. That means cut are present in the leaves. So you can see there are incisions or the cuts in the leaf, but this is one incision, this is another incision, this is another incision. So there are so many incisions or the cuts in the leaves, but these incisions are not touching the midrib. Okay, you can see. So again, we can say that this is simple leaf. Okay, incisions are not touching the midrib. So there are two cases in which the leaves are said to be simple. Either there is no incision and the lamina is entire, or the incision is present but it is not touching the midrib. In both the cases, the leaf will be called as simple leaf. Okay. So in case of simple leaves, we saw that either they will not have any incision, or if the incision will be present, then they will not touch the midrib. So it will look like a single leaf, one leaf, okay. But in case of compound leaves, what will happen? Incisions will definitely be present, and these incisions will be touching the midrib in such a way that it will be visible as if there are more than one leaves. Okay, so it will be a number of leaflets present on a common axis. Okay, again, the compound type of leaves will be two types of compound. That means pinnately compound or palmately compound. Okay, what is the difference between the two? In case of pinnately compound, what will happen? Suppose this is the axis, then the incisions will be present on a common axis but different points on that axis. Okay, like this. So you can see that a number of small leaflets will be present on a common axis but at different points. But in case of palmately compound, the incisions will be cutting on the same point, will be present on the same point. So a number of leaves will be present on the same point on the axis. Okay, this is the difference. In the pinnately compound, the position of leaves will be different. They will be present at different points on the common axis, but in palmately compound, they will be present at the same point. Okay, so here you can see this picture. This is the picture that is mentioned in the NCERT, so you should know this. The first one is the example of pinnately compound leaf, and this is the leaf of the neem. Okay, so here you can see a number of leaflets are present on this common axis, but they are present at the different points. Okay, at different locations on the axis. Whereas in the second one, this is the silk cotton, and the leaves are present on the common point, and it is looking like a palm. Therefore, this is known as the palmately compound. Palm, and here you can see the different fingers are present on our palm. Although the direction of the fingers are different, but there is a common point. Okay, common center point. Similarly, in this pinnately compound leaves, you will see there is a center, common center, from which the leaves will be arising. So this is the difference between pinnately compound and the palmately compound leaves. Now let's move to the next topic. What is our next topic? It is phyllotaxy, I guess. Yes, phyllotaxy. So what do we mean by phyllotaxy? Phyllotaxy means the arrangement of leaves on the axis. Arrangement of leaves on the axis. So how the leaves are arranged on the axis? There can be three types of phyllotaxy or three types of arrangement. First one is alternate arrangement, second one is opposite arrangement, and the third one is whorled arrangement. Okay, so let's see. Here I will not write anything. Simply you can look at this picture and things should be clear from this picture itself. In case of alternate arrangement, you will see that the leaves are arising from different points. Okay, and at one point only one leaf is present. Okay, at the lowest point you can see there is one leaf, this one, which is on the right side. As we move up, again there is only one leaf at this point, which is on the left side. On the next one, another leaf that is on the right side. So here you can notice two things. First thing, that at one point only one leaf is arising, and the second thing, that if the previous leaf was on the right side, then this time it will be on the left side, and then on the next time again it will be right side. So it is this kind of arrangement: right side, left side, then right side, then left side. Okay, at one point only one leaf, either at right or at left. Okay, so this type is known as alternate arrangement. First there will be a leaf on the right side, then next the leaf will be on the left side, then again right side, then left side. This will go on. In case of the second one, that is the opposite arrangement, you can see at the same point two leaves are present on both the sides. Okay, on both the sides, so that means right and left both. So here the leaves are opposite to each other. At one point, both sides leaves will be present. This is known as opposite phyllotaxy. And the third one is whorled. Here you can see at one point more than two leaves are present. More, here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So many leaves will be present at the same point. In case of opposite, only two leaves were present at the same point. In case of alternate, only one leaf at one point. But here more than two leaves. It can be 3, 4, 5 leaves at same point. So this is known as whorled arrangement. Okay. Now what is most important? The most important thing as usual is the examples. So the examples of alternate phyllotaxy will be China rose, mustard and sunflower. And that of opposite will be calotropis and guava. And there is one example of whorled phyllotaxy that is mentioned in the NCERT, that is Alstonia. So here I cannot help you. You have to memorize these examples. Okay. And why I am repeating that you should revise it again and again, because the same examples are given in different topics. So you might get confused. Okay. So you have to keep revising in order to remember these examples. Now we come to the modification of leaves. In case of roots as well as stems, we saw they were modified to perform some special functions. So leaves are also sometimes modified to perform some other functions. Here first one is tendril. So we saw that in some cases stems are also modified into tendrils, and in some cases leaves are also modified into tendrils. Okay, so here which stem was modified into tendril? It was the gourds such as bitter gourds, bottle gourds, pumpkins, etc. And other than that, grapevines. In case of grapevines also, the stems were modified into tendrils, into the tendrils. What are tendrils? These are creepy structures. Tendril. Sorry, it's tendrils. Let's write it down here. Tendril. Okay. But in case of pea, the leaves are modified to form the tendrils. Okay. In case of gourds and grapevines, the stems are modified to form the tendrils. But in case of pea, the leaves are modified to form the tendrils. And the function is same. Okay. Then spines. We have also discussed that in case of dry areas such as deserts, in order to conserve water, the size of the leaves are reduced, and the leaves are reduced to form the spines or the thorns. Okay, so cactus is one of the example of such leaves. Then just like the roots and stems, some leaves are also modified to store food. So the example of such leaves are onion and garlic. Okay, then Australian acacia. What happens in Australian acacia? See, its leaves are very small and short-lived. Okay, suppose this is the midrib or the axis. Leaves are present. These are the leaves of Australian acacia. I don't know if you have seen this plant. I will show you the picture. So these are the leaves. Okay. Below the leaf, there is petiole. Petiole is the long structure, long slender part that holds the leaf, right? So these leaves are very short lived. That means after some time they will die. So if they will die, then who will synthesize the food through the photosynthesis? So for that function, its petiole takes that responsibility that when these leaves will die, I will perform the photosynthesis. How does it happen? This petiole becomes broad like leaves. So since it has to perform photosynthesis, the petiole will become broad like a leaf and it will look like a leaf. When you will see the plant, you will think that this is the leaf, but that is not a leaf. That is the petiole of the leaf that has been modified to become like a leaf. Because the actual leaf have to die after some time. They are very short lived. Okay. So its petiole will become broad like leaf, and this petiole will be known as phyllodes. What will be the name of this petiole? Phyllodes. Okay. And you have to remember the plant name Australian acacia. I have the picture here. You can see this left side picture. Here you can see these are the leaves, small leaves. These small size leaves are the actual leaf of this plant. These are the real leaves. Okay. And below these leaves, you can see a leaf-like structure. These are actually the petiole of the plant, petiole. The larger leaves are not the real leaves. These are the petiole that have been modified into a leaf-like structure. They have got broadened, okay, to perform the photosynthesis. Therefore, these are also green in color, okay. Which are the real leaves? The smaller ones, not the larger ones. So this is special type of leaf that you should remember. I think you might not be aware about this because this is not common. And then there are some other plants in which leaves are modified to perform special type of functions such as in insectivorous plants, okay, such as Venus flytrap and pitcher plant. In these plants, the leaves are modified to catch the insects. Okay, so you can see this is the Venus flytrap. Here, these leaves are modified in such a way that their food can be captured easily. Their foods are insects mainly. So these insects get trapped inside the leaves. Okay. So these were different modifications of the leaves. And now the topic of leaf is completed and we will start the next topic, that is the flower. Okay. What did we discuss in the leaf? The leaf had originated from which cells? The meristematic cells, and these cells were part of the shoot apical meristem, right? So the flower is also from the same type of cells, the shoot apical meristem. But in case of flower, first the shoot apical meristem will get converted into the floral meristem, because if shoot apical meristem will give rise to the leaves, they will be green colored, but flowers have to be very colorful. So these meristems will get converted into the floral meristem, and these floral meristems will give rise to the colorful parts. Okay, colorful parts. So here you can see the first figure, there are leaves present. Okay, these leaves are formed from the shoot apical meristem. So the general shoot apical meristem give rise to green colored leaves. But when these shoot apical meristem get converted into the floral meristem, this will be floral meristem. Floral meristem. Okay, then they will give rise to colorful parts. So here you can see colorful leaves are present, or the petals of the flowers are present. Similar way, sepals can also be formed. And then the axis will get condensed, all the parts will come together and it will form a beautiful flower. Okay. So what is the process of formation of flower? First, the shoot apical meristem will get converted into a floral meristem. Then the axis will get condensed. Then all these parts will come together to form a beautiful flower. Okay. Next thing is inflorescence. So what is inflorescence? It is the arrangement of flowers on the floral axis. We had discussed about the arrangement of leaves on the axis, that is phyllotaxy. Similarly, in flowers also we will study the arrangement of flowers on the floral axis, and this is known as inflorescence. Okay, so there are mainly two types of inflorescence. First one is the racemose inflorescence, second one is the cymose inflorescence. So what is racemose inflorescence? Here the flowers are borne in acropetal succession. Now, what do we mean by acropetal succession? When we were discussing the leaves, there we discussed that the bigger leaves are present on the lower side and the smaller leaves are present on the upper side. So the new leaves are getting added at the top, not at the bottom. Similarly, when the flowers are born on the lower side first and the new flowers get added on the upper side, this succession or this type of process is known as acropetal order. Okay, that means bigger size on the or older ones at the bottom and newer ones at the top. Okay, so we can say that the older ones will be present at the lower side or the bottom side, and the newer ones will be present at the top or the bottom. So here the older ones will be larger in size, so this is the older flower. Okay, as we move up, the new ones will get added, it will be smaller than this one. As we move up further, even smaller flower will be present. So this type of succession or this type of arrangement is known as racemose inflorescence. Okay. Whereas in case of cymose, what happens? Just the opposite happens. Here, the older ones will be present at the top and the newer ones will be getting added at the bottom. And this type of order is known as basipetal order. So in this case, what will happen? The oldest one will be larger in size and it will be present at the terminal positions. We had seen that in a stem there are axillary buds which are present on the sides, right? And there are many axillary buds, but there is terminal bud also that is present on the top, and there is only one terminal bud. Okay, so in case of cymose inflorescence, the flower develops at the terminal point. So what will happen? Will it be able to grow continuously? No, because at the topmost position there is already a flower. So now no more flowers can get added above it. All the flowers that have to be added, they will be added below it. So below it, there will be flowers, newer flowers that will be smaller in size. Again, as we move down, there will be even smaller flowers and even smaller will be present at the bottom. Got it? So what will be the main difference in the racemose and cymose inflorescence? In the first one, the main axis will continue to grow because there is nothing at the top preventing the growth. But in case of cymose, at the top a flower has been formed. So the terminal bud has been used, right? So there is no chance that it will grow further. So there is only limited growth because the main axis has been terminated in a flower. So main axis has terminated. so it will not grow further. In the racemose, the main axis was open, there was nothing at the main axis, okay, therefore the main axis was able to grow continuously. I hope you understood this. So here are the pictures that are given in the NCERT. Okay, you can see in the first one, that is the yellow color. Here the axis can grow. This is the example of racemose inflorescence. Whereas in the second one, the terminal bud has been transformed into the terminal axis has been converted into a flower. So it will not grow further. Yes, another flower can grow below it, okay, or at other angles, but not, it will, the axis will not grow anymore. Okay. So this is the second one is cymose. Now, the next thing about the flower that we have to discuss is the halls of the flower. So what are the halls of the flower? The different parts of the flower such as sepals, petals, stamens and carpels. Okay. So here we will start from the bottom one. So the bottom most is the green color hall, that is known as the sepal, or it is also known as the calyx. Okay. Calyx is represented by the letter K when we write the floral formula. Then above the calyx, petals are present. This is the second wall. Second wall, petals that are also known as corolla. Then next to it are these stamens, and these stamens, many stamens together are known as androecium. Androecium. And above it there are carpels, that means the female part. Stamens are the male part and the carpels are the female part. And many carpels together will form the gynoecium. So from bottom to top, the halls of the flower are calyx, that is sepals, corolla, that is petals, then androecium, that consists of stamens, and then gynoecium, that consists of the carpels. Okay. So these are the halls of the flower. Here you can see this is the flower. It consists of pedicel, that is the stalk of the flower. Pedicel is nothing but the stalk of the flower on which the flower is born. This is the calyx. So different halls are shown separately. Then corolla, then androecium, which have different stamens. So all these are stamens, okay? And then gynoecium. Now, here we know that the calyx and corolla are two different halls. Like calyx are green in color. If you look at this flower rose that is shown here, this green color part is the calyx, that is the outermost part. Now below that there is a colorful petal that is known as corolla. Okay, so here you can easily identify or distinguish the calyx from the corolla. Okay, these are very different. Corolla looks very different from the calyx, but in some case what happens, the calyx and corolla look very similar, and they are arranged in such a manner that you will not be able to distinguish. Okay, you will not be able to identify which one is calyx, which one is corolla. So in the second figure you can see this is lily. Can you identify which one is calyx here? So here actually this is the all the calyx and corolla look similar, so you will not be able to identify which one is calyx and corolla. Okay. Arrangement is known as perianth. So what is perianth? Perianth is found in lily, and it is basically the fusion of the calyx and corolla. So when the calyx and corolla are calyx and corolla cannot be distinguished, cannot be distinguished, then it is known as perianth. Okay. Or we can say that the calyx and corolla are fused together. They are fused together to form the perianth. Okay. Then next part is thalamus. What is thalamus? This is the swollen end of the pedicel on which the flower is born. On which the flower is born. So suppose this is the stalk or the pedicel on which the flower is born. So if this is the flower, at the bottom of the flower, there will be the swollen end of this pedicel. Okay, this pedicel will get swollen and then the flower will be present on it. So this swollen part of the pedicel will be known as the thalamus. Got it? Now, some flowers are bisexual, some are unisexual. Bisexual means what? Both stamens and carpels will be present in the same flower. Okay, stamens and carpels. Both will be present in the same flower. Whereas if the flower is unisexual, then either stamen will be present or carpel will be present. So either it will have the male parts or it will have the female parts. Okay. The next topic of the flower is symmetry. We had discussed the animal kingdom in the previous chapter, right? There also we had discussed about the symmetry, and we saw that some animals, in the body of some animals, were radially symmetrical, some were bilaterally symmetrical. Similarly, here also some flowers are actinomorphic and some are zygomorphic. The names are different from the animal kingdom, but the meaning is same. Okay, actinomorphic is same as the radial symmetry. Actinomorphic is same as what we had discussed in the radial symmetry of animals, and zygomorphic means the same as we had discussed in the bilateral symmetry of the animals. Okay, what happens in radial symmetry? Whichever axis you take, you will be able to divide the body or divide the flower into two same parts. Okay, two similar parts or two equal parts. So if you take, suppose, this axis, this middle one, the flower will be divided into two equal parts. And if you take any other axis, the flower will be able to divide into two equal halves. Okay, so this type of symmetry is known as actinomorphic in flower, whereas in animal it was known as the radial symmetry. Similarly, in the second one, you can see that there is only a single axis through which the flower can be divided into two equal halves, and this is known as zygomorphic in flower, but in animal it was known as the bilateral symmetry. Okay, so in the zygomorphic, there is only one axis through which it can be divided into two equal halves. But in actinomorphic, there are many axes through which it can be divided into two equal halves. No matter which axis you take, you will be able to divide it into two equal halves. And then there is some flower in which the symmetry is not at all possible. For example, canna. Here you can see this red color flower. So here, no matter which axis you will take, you will not be able to divide the flower into two equal halves because all the parts are so different from each other. Okay, all the petals are of different sizes and different shapes. So how will you divide it into two equal halves? This is not possible. Okay, so this is asymmetrical. This is asymmetrical. Now, what is more important? The examples are most important. So the examples of actinomorphic flower, which can be divided into two equal halves through all the axes, is mustard, datura, and chili. And the examples of the zygomorphic flowers are pea, gulmohar, cassia, and bean. And what is the asymmetrical flower? Canna is the asymmetrical flower. So these examples you have to remember. Now, what is bract? So bract is a leaf-like structure that is present at the base of the pedicel. Okay, look at this flower. Look at this figure. This is the sepal, green color sepal, red color is the petal. Then this is the stalk of the flower that is known as the pedicel. Where is the thalamus? Thalamus is not shown here, but I have explained it right now. The swollen part of the pedicel on which the flower is present. So this swollen part, this swollen part is the thalamus. Okay, I hope you have understood this. Now, as we move downwards, at the end of the pedicel or the base of the pedicel, some leaf-like structures are present. So these structures are known as bracts. Okay, so if suppose we are talking about the leaf, in leaf we had discussed that if some leaf-like structures are present at the bottom, these are known as the stipules. But in case of flowers, if small leaf-like structures are present at the base of the pedicel, these are known as the bracts. Okay, so bracts are the leaf-like structure that are present at the base of the pedicel of the flower. Okay, so if the bract is present in a flower, it will be known as bracteate. Okay, so bracteate flower means the bracts are present. Bracts are present, or the small leaf-like structures are present at the base of the pedicel. And ebracteate flower means bracts are absent. Got it? It was very simple. Now the flowers can be trimerous, tetramerous or pentamerous depending on the number of floral appendages. Okay. So if the floral appendages such as calyx or corolla are in the multiple of 3, then they will be known as trimerous. If they are in the multiple of 4, they are known as tetramerous. So tri means 3, tetra means 4, penta means 5. So if the floral appendages are in multiple of 5, then they are known as pentamerous. You can easily understand with the help of this picture. In the first picture, pink color flower is trimerous flower because you can see 3 petals are present. So these are in the multiple of 3. In the next one, that is blue and white flower, here you can see there are 4 petals. Okay, so these are in the multiple of 4, therefore these are known as tetramerous. And at the bottom you can see there is a pentamerous flower which has 5 floral appendage. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5. So very simple. On the basis of number of the floral appendages, they can be called as trimerous, tetramerous or pentamerous. Now we will discuss the position of the ovary with respect to other halls. So the next topic is position of ovary with respect to other halls. So we know that the ovary is part of the gynoecium, that means the female reproductive part of the flower, right? So here we will be comparing the position of the gynoecium with the position of other halls of the flower such as androecium, calyx and corolla. Okay. So here we have 4 different flowers with different colors of the petal. Okay, so it will help you to identify the flower which we are talking about. So first we will talk about the first flower which has pink colored petals. Okay, so in this one, where is the sepal or the calyx? This is the sepal. Okay, this is the sepal or the calyx of the flower. Now slightly above the sepal you can see there is a pink colored petal or the corolla of the flower, right? Again, slightly above the corolla, you can see the androecium, that means the stamen. Okay, so this is the calyx. Then this is the corolla. This is the stamen of the flower, that is part of androecium. And slightly above the androecium, you will see the gynoecium. Okay, so this lowest most part of the gynoecium is the ovary, right? So can you see that when we are comparing the position of different halls of the flower, the lowest position is occupied by the calyx. Okay. So calyx is at the lowest point, whereas the ovary or the gynoecium is at the highest point. Okay. So we can see that the ovary is situated above the other parts of the flower. Okay. So this type of ovary is known as superior ovary. Okay. What type of ovary? Superior ovary. And this condition is known as hypogynous condition. Hypo means below. Hypo means below and gynous is related to gynoecium. So in this word, we mean to say that all the other halls of the flower or other parts of the flower are located below the gynoecium. Therefore, the name hypogynous. Okay. And the examples of such flower will be mustard, China rose and brinjal. Right. Now let's move to the last flower. Okay, we will talk about the middle 2 flowers later on. First we will talk about the last flower which has red color petal. Okay, so this is the sepal or the calyx of the flower. This is the petal or the corolla of the flower. This is the stamen, that is part of androecium. And where is the gynoecium? Gynoecium is this one. This one. Okay, so ovary is here. This is the ovary. So you can see that in this case is just the opposite of the first case. In the first case, the ovary was situated at the top. In this case, the ovary is situated at the bottom. So first thing that we notice is that ovary is located at the bottom, or we can say that this is an inferior ovary. The first one was the case of superior ovary. This is the case of inferior ovary. Second important condition is that the ovary is enclosed within the thalamus. Enclosed within the thalamus. What is thalamus? Thalamus is the swollen part of the pedicel. So this swollen part, green colored part, is completely surrounding the ovary. Okay, ovary is completely surrounded by the thalamus or the enclosed within the thalamus. So this type of ovary is known as inferior ovary, and this condition is known as epigynous condition. So you have to remember both these conditions. First, that ovary must be located at the lowest point, below other parts, and second that it must be enclosed within the thalamus completely. Okay, examples of such flowers will be guava, cucumber, and ray floret of sunflower. Okay, now let's come to the middle two flowers. Middle two flowers will come somewhat in between. So in these cases, if you look at the first flower of the middle two, that means the flower with the blue colored petal, here you can clearly see that the all other parts of the flower or other halls of the flower are located above the gynoecium. Ovary is located at the bottom. Okay, this is the ovary. This shaded portion is the ovary, right? So you can say that this is also an inferior ovary. Yes, this is an inferior ovary. But this inferior ovary is different from the inferior ovary of the last flower. Why? Because in the last flower, the ovary was enclosed within the thalamus. But in this case, it is not enclosed within the thalamus. So it is not completely inferior. It is half inferior. So such type of ovary are known as half inferior ovary, and such condition is known as perigynous condition. Okay, and it is assumed that in case of perigynous condition, the ovary of the flower and other walls of the flower are almost at the same level, although the ovary is slightly below other parts, but still it is not considered as an epigynous flower. It will be considered as a perigynous flower. In the second one also, with yellow colored petals, you can see that the positions of all the holes are almost same, but the ovary is slightly below the other holes. Therefore, it is half inferior. Again, half inferior ovary because it is not enclosed within the thalamus of the flower. So this is also perigynous. So the middle two are perigynous flowers. Examples of perigynous flowers are written here: plum, peach, and rose. Okay, plum, peach, and rose are the examples of perigynous flower. Now we will discuss each whorl of the flower individually. So we start from the bottom. So at the bottom, what is situated? Calyx of the flower. Above the calyx, corolla is situated. And then androecium and then gynoecium. In a general flower, that is in a hypogynous flower. Okay. So calyx, that means sepals. This is green colored. Generally, sometimes color might be different, but generally they are green in color and they are located at the bottom. Then we know that the calyx and corolla both start with alphabet C. But when we write the floral formula there, we just have to use the alphabet. So in order to differentiate between calyx and corolla, we use the alphabet K for calyx and C for corolla. Okay. Now, calyx can, depending on the type of calyx, the flower can be polysepalous or gamosepalous. Poly means many, sepalous is related to sepals. So, if all the sepals of the flower are separate or they are free, then such type of flowers are known as polysepalous flowers. Okay, so in this case, sepals are free. But if the sepals of the flower are fused together, this type of flower is known as gamosepalous flower. Okay, so in this case they are fused together, right? Similarly for corolla also, that means the petals also, they can either be free or they can be fused together. So if the petals are free, then it is known as a polypetalous flower or polypetalous condition. And if the petals are fused together, then this condition is known as gamopetalous condition. Okay, corolla are generally colorful part of the flowers. That means the petals of the flower. Now, when we are talking about the calyx and corolla, we must discuss the aestivation. That means the arrangement, the type of arrangement in which the calyx or corolla can be arranged. So this is arrangement of one calyx or corolla with respect to another calyx or calyx or corolla of the flower. So here we have to compare the calyx with another calyx and corolla with another corolla of the same flower. Okay, we cannot compare the calyx with corolla. You have to compare the calyx with calyx only and corolla with corolla only. So let's discuss the type of aestivation or the type of arrangement. So in the first case, you can see that all the petals are arranged in a regular form. So there is a regularity in this case. Okay, they are arranged in regular form. All the petals are just touching each other on both the sides and they are not overlapping each other. Okay, so in the first case there is no overlapping of the petals. So this type of aestivation is known as valvate aestivation, and the example of the valvate aestivation is calotropis. Okay. Now, if we move to the second one, here you can see that they have a twisted arrangement. You can see twisted type of diagram is there. So in this case, the petals are overlapping each other. Okay, but they are overlapping each other in a regular form. So again, here is a regular sequence or regular arrangement. Okay, of the petals. So what do we see here? That if we take one petal for reference, suppose this is the petal we are talking about. So this petal on one side is overlapping the other petal, and on the other side it is getting overlapped by the other petal. Okay. Similarly, suppose this is petal number 1, this is petal number 2. So again, this petal number 2 also is getting overlapped by petal 1 on one side, and it will be overlapping other petal on the other side. Okay. So you can see there will be same sequence of all the petals. So all the petals are in the same condition. So this type of aestivation is known as the twisted aestivation, and the examples of such aestivation will be found in China rose, cotton, and lady's finger. So all the flowers of these China rose, cotton, and lady's finger will have twisted arrangement or twisted aestivation. Okay. Now one more thing here we can observe, that since there is a regular sequence, so if we take any axis, we will be able to divide the flower into two equal halves, because the flower is in a regular form. Okay, so no matter which axis you take, you will be able to divide the flower into two equal parts. So we can say that these flowers, both these flowers, valvate aestivation and twisted aestivation, will be actinomorphic. Okay, so these two will be actinomorphic flowers. Now, if you relate this, the concepts or relate the topics like this, then you will be easily remembering all the examples, right? So now what you can do, you can go and check the examples of actinomorphic flowers, and you will see that you will find the same examples. Okay. Now, if we move to the third type of aestivation, here also the petals are overlapping each other, but there is no regular sequence. Suppose if we take this petal, this topmost petal, then this petal is getting overlapped on both the sides. But if we take this petal, this is overlapping the other petals on both the sides. Okay, whereas there are some other petals which are on one side getting overlapped, and on the other side they are overlapping the other. So all the petals are not in the same condition, so there is no regularity here. There is no regularity, or there is no regular sequence of overlapping. So this is known as an imbricate aestivation, and the examples will be gulmohar and cassia. Now you can guess clearly that this type of flower cannot be actinomorphic, because we cannot divide the flower into two equal halves through all the axes. Yes, there can be one particular axis through which we can divide the flower into two equal halves. So these flowers can be zygomorphic but not actinomorphic. Now you can go and check the examples of zygomorphic flowers. You will find gulmohar and cassia, okay, which are also example of imbricate aestivation. Right. Now we come to the last type of aestivation. This has a particular type of arrangement. In this case, the size of the petals will also be different. There will be one large sized petal. This is known as the standard petal. Okay, this large sized petal is known as standard petal. Right. Now inside this standard petal will be enclosing the middle two petals, which are the lateral wings of the flower. These are known as lateral wings. So what is the name of the largest petal of this flower? Standard. The middle two are known as wings, and the smallest two, inside the lateral wings, if you go, you will find two small petals which are fused together, and these are known as keel. Okay, these are known as keel. So keel are found in which type of aestivation? Vexillary aestivation. This type of aestivation is known as vexillary aestivation. This is 1 plus 2 plus 2 arrangement. 1 means one standard petal, 2 means two lateral wings, and the last 2 means keel, small petals fused together. The examples will be P and B. So these are also zygomorphic flowers, because there is only one axis, that is north to south, through which if you divide the flower, you will get the flower into two equal halves, right? So this is zygomorphic. If you take any other axis, you will not be able to divide the flower into two equal halves. Again, you can check in the zygomorphic symmetry, type of symmetry, you will see these examples. P and bean will be given here. Okay. So this way you can relate and then you can remember the examples easily. So we have discussed two parts of the flower, the calyx and corolla. Now let's come to the third part, that is the androecium. So what is androecium? It is nothing but the male reproductive part of the flower, right? It is the male reproductive part of the flower. And what does an androecium consist of? It contains many stamens together. Okay, so all the stamens of the flower together are known as the androecium. And here you can see the structure of a typical stamen, and even in the stamen you can see the anther of the stamen. Okay, a stamen consists of two parts. First one is the anther, that is the upper part of the stamen, and the lower stalk like structure is known as the filament. Okay, so in this figure, filament is shown here at the bottom. This is the filament. And the upper part is the anther. Right? Now, in this anther, you can see that the structure is something like this. The structure of the anther is something like this, and it consists of two lobes on each side. On the left hand side there is one lobe, and on the right hand side there is another lobe, right? So there are two lobes in an anther. How many lobes? Two lobes are there, and in each lobe there are two circular structures which are known as theca. Okay, so in one lobe there are two theca. So how many theca are there? Two theca in each lobe. In each lobe, right? And total there are two lobes. So how many theca will be there? Four theca will be there in a typical anther. Okay. And since in this figure you can see pink colored pollen grains are stored in the theca. Okay. In the pollen sacs or the theca, you can see that the pollen grains are stored. Therefore, these are known as the pollen sacs. Okay. Now, another term that you have to keep in mind is the staminode. What is staminode? So, if the stamen is sterile, it will be known as staminode. Okay, so staminode is a sterile stamen. A sterile stamen is known as the staminode. Right? So, this was all about the stamen. Now, let's move further. There are different conditions in which you can find a stamen. Okay, for example, if you look at this flower, let me zoom in the picture. So this is the flower of brinjal. Okay, on the right side you can see that this flower is cut open and different parts of the flower are visible here, right? So can you see the stamen of the flower? This green colored part is the anther of the stamen. This is the anther, and this white color stalk is the filament of the stamen. Okay, so there are many such stamens, right? There are many such stamens in the flower, and all these stamens are attached with the petal of the flower, right? This pink color is the petal. So all the stamens are fused with the petal or attached with the petal. So this condition is known as epipetalous condition. Okay, or the flowers will be known as epipetalous flowers. Why? Because the stamens of the flower are attached with the petal. Okay, so this is known as epipetalous condition, and the example is brinjal, as you can see in the figure. Right. Now there is another condition. Suppose the petal of the flower is not distinct. For example, we have discussed in this chapter only that there is a word called perianth. Okay, perianth. What does the word perianth means? So when the petals or sepals of the flower are not distinct and they look very similar, so that it becomes very confusing to identify which one is petal and which one is sepal, then the petals and sepal are together known as perianth. Okay, because we are unable to identify which one is petal and which one is sepal. And we saw the example also. The example was lily flower. I have given this diagram. I've mentioned this diagram in this chapter. You can see this video, the earlier part of the video where I have mentioned that, or you can search on Google the lily flower. In the lily flower, you will not be able to find out which one is petal and which one is sepal. Okay, so that is known as perianth. Now, suppose the stamens are present in such flower and they are fused with the petal. Then how will you identify? So in this case, we say that the stamen is fused with the perianth of the flower, and this condition is known as the epiphyllous condition. Okay, so if the stamens are attached with the petals and the petal is distinct, it can be identified, then it is known as epipetalous condition. Example will be brinjal. But if the petals and sepals are not distinct and they look very similar, in that case they will be known as perianth, and if the stamens are attached to the perianth, this condition will be known as epiphyllous condition, and the example will be lily. Okay, now let's move to another condition. Right now, we discussed the condition when the stamen was fused with the petal or the perianth. But it is not necessary that it will always be fused with the petal or the perianth. So, if these stamens are free, they are totally free, they are not attached with any petal, or if they are not fused together with other stamen, then this condition is known as polyandrous condition. What do we mean by polyandrous condition? That means all the stamens are free. Stamens are totally free. They are not fused with any part of the flower. Okay, so in this figure you can see all these stamens are free. They are not fused with any part of the flower, not even with another stamen. So each of these stamens can be seen clearly, right? So this is known as polyandrous condition. Poly means many and androus is related to andretium. Okay, so many stamens are there and all are clearly visible. So this is polyandrous condition. The example will be lotus flower. Okay, so this type of stamens will be seen in lotus flower. Now, next type of condition is when the stamens are not totally free. Instead, they are present in the form of bundles. Okay, that means different stamens are fused together. Now, even if they are fused together, they can form a number of bundles. For example, in some flowers, you will see that there is only one bundle of stamens. Okay, all the stamens of a flower will be combined together in one bundle. There will be another condition in which there will be two bundles, and then there can be flowers where there are more than one bundles or more than two bundles. Okay, so here are the three types of conditions when the stamens are fused together. So in the first one, you can see there is only one bundle. There is only one bundle, right? In the second one, you can see there are two groups. Actually, there are no two bundles, but two groups are there. In one group, the large number of stamens are present together, whereas in another group, there is only one stamen. So one stamen can be seen separately and all the other stamens are forming a group. So you can see two different parts of the stamens, right? Whereas in the third one, you can see the stamens are present in different bundles. Okay, so many bundles are present, more than two bundles. Total here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bundles are there in this figure, right? So what is the name of such type of combination or such type of condition? The first condition where all these stamens are present together in one bundle, this condition will be known as monoadelphous condition. Okay, monoadelphous condition. Mono means one and adelphous is related to bundle or group. So there is only one bundle, so this is monoadelphous condition. And the example of monoadelphous condition will be China rose. You must have seen the China rose or the hibiscus flower. So this type of andretium is present here where all the stamens are together in just one bundle. Okay. Then second type is known as the diadelphous condition. Diadelphous condition. Di means two, right? So two. And adelphous is related to bundle or group. So here you can see the stamens are present in two groups. 9 stamens are present here together in one bundle. Okay, this is one bundle in which 9 stamens are present. And there is one stamen that is separately present. Okay, so this type of combination is known as 9+1 arrangement, and this can be seen in the P. So example of diadelphous condition will be P. Okay, the example of monoadelphous will be hibiscus or China rose, and the example of diadelphous is P. So this type of androecium can be seen in the P plant. Okay, then the last one, where a large number of bundles can be present, so this is known as polyadelphous condition. Polyadelphous condition. Poly means many, adelphous is related to bundles. Okay, so many bundles are there. You can see this is one bundle, this is one bundle. You can zoom in the video to see the larger view. Okay, so here many bundles are present. The example of polyadelphous flower will be citrus. Now here you have to keep in mind that polyadelphous and polyandrous are two different things. So do not get confused between these two words. Polyadelphous. Adelphous word is related to bundle. So many bundles are present, therefore polyadelphous. Whereas polyandrous means all the stamens are free. Okay, so these two you have to keep in mind. Now let's move further. Right now, we saw that there were different conditions in which stamens were present, but the size of the stamens was same. Okay, so till now the size of the stamens was same, but there can be some flower in which the size of the stamens can differ. For example, if you look in the first flower, this is a stamen of smaller size, and then the same flower has another stamen of longer size. Okay, here this is shorter one, this is the longer one. In the second flower also you can see shorter stamens, longer stamens. Okay, so the size of the stamens can also be different in some flowers. So the example of such flowers will be mustard and salvia. Here the size of stamens are different. Size of stamens are different. Let me scroll it down. Different. So these were the different conditions in which the androecium or the stamens can be present in a flower. Okay. So we have completed three parts of the flower, calyx, corolla and androecium. Now let's come to the last part or the last whorl of the flower, that is the gynoecium. Androecium was the male reproductive part, whereas the gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower. Okay. Female reproductive part. Now, in androecium, there were many stamens together. In a gynoecium, there can be many pistils or carpels together. Okay, pistil or carpel, which are the female parts. Right now, each pistil or each carpel will consist of three parts, similar to the stamen. In stamen, there were two parts, anther and filament. In the pistil, there will be three parts, stigma, style, and ovary. So, what is stigma? Stigma is the upper part or the receptive part of the pistil. Okay, so this is the receptive part. Receptive part. Why it is said to be the receptive part? Because it receives the pollen grains released by the anthers. Okay, so when the anthers release the pollen grains, these pollen grains land on the stigma of the flower. Okay, so this is the receptive part. What is the role? To receive the pollen grains. Then style. The next part is the style. So below the stigma, there will be a thin passage that will be known as style. So style is the part of the flower that connects the stigma to the ovary. Okay, so it connects the stigma to the ovary of the flower. Okay, and another important role of style is it will help in the passage of the pollen grains from the stigma to the ovary. Okay, so the pollen grain will land on the stigma, then it will pass through this style and then move to the lowermost part, that is the ovary. So this is the ovary. Okay, this is the lowermost part of the pistil where fertilization will take place. Now in the ovary there will be soft cushion-like structure. Soft. So what is this? Placenta. Placenta is the soft cushion-like structure. Cushion-like structure that is located in the ovary. Okay, so the ovules that will be born will be present on this placenta. Okay, the ovules will be attached to the placenta in the ovary, right? These ovules will later on develop into the seed, and the ovary will develop into the fruit. Okay, after the fertilization. Now, in case of androecium, we discussed many types of conditions, right? Like polyandrous condition. Then we saw the epipetalis, then epiphyllous condition. Then we saw the monoadelphous condition, diadelphous condition, and polyadelphous conditions. But in gynoecium, you don't have to discuss different types of conditions. There are only two conditions that we have to study, that is apocarpus condition and syncarpus condition. Okay, so the gynoecium is relatively easier than the androecium to remember. Okay, here we have to remember just two words, apocarpus condition and the syncarpus condition. Now here you can clearly see in the diagram or the figure that on the left hand side, this is one pistil. Okay, this upper part of the pistil is the stigma. This passage is the style, and this lowermost part is the ovary, right? So this is one pistil from stigma to the ovary. This is another pistil. This is another pistil. So three pistils are shown in this apocarpus condition, and you can see that all the three pistils are free, right? They can be seen very clearly. They are not fused together, they are separate, right? So this condition is known as apocarpus condition, whereas in the second one you can see again there are three pistils, but all these three pistils are fused together and you cannot see the individual ovary. Okay, in the first one you can see the ovaries of three different pistils, but here you cannot identify the ovaries of different pistils. Only the stigmas are separate, ovaries are fused together, right? So this condition is known as the syncarpus condition. Okay, and the examples can be seen here. The examples of apocarpus condition will be lotus and rose, whereas the example of syncarpus condition is mustard and tomato. Okay, now here you can notice one thing, that in lotus we have discussed the what kind of condition was there in lotus when we were discussing the androecium. In lotus there was polyandrous condition, right? Polyandrous condition. That means all these stamens were free. All these stamens were free. And here, when we are discussing the conditions of the female part, then also we saw that it has the apocarpus condition. That means all the pistils are also free here. All the pistils are also free. So lotus is a flower where all these stamens are free and all the pistils are also free. Okay, so this you can remember. And other examples you can remember for syncarpus, it is mustard and tomato. If you want, you can try to find more examples from the internet. But in the NCERT, only these examples are given. So you have to, I would suggest you to stick to the NCERT. Okay. Now let's start with the placentation. What do we mean by placentation? It is the arrangement of ovules on the placenta or in the ovary. Okay, because placenta is part of ovary only, right? So placentation means the arrangement of the ovules on the placenta, or the arrangement of ovules inside the ovary. Okay, so let's see in what ways the ovules can be arranged inside the ovary or on the placenta of the ovary. So the first type of placentation is marginal placentation. As it is clear from the name itself that here the ovules will be present on the margin of the placenta. Okay, margin. Therefore, the name marginal. So here what happens, placenta forms a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary. Now what is ventral suture? Look at this P. Here this figure, look at this figure. Here you can see that there are two sides of this P. On each side there will be one ventral suture and one dorsal suture. So this side where the ovules are born, or where the seeds are attached, that side is the ventral suture of the ovary, okay? And the opposite side, this side where the seeds are not attached, this is the dorsal suture, okay? So each part has two sutures, ventral suture on which the seeds are attached, okay? And the opposite side is the dorsal suture. So here you can see that the placenta is forming a ridge along this ventral suture of the ovary, okay? On the right hand side also you can see this is the ventral suture, and here the ovules are born, right? So they will be born on the ventral suture because the placenta is forming a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary, not along the dorsal suture. Okay. And ovules will be born on this ridge, forming two rows, one on the left side and the other on the right side. Okay. So this is known as marginal placentation, and the example is clear. P is the example. And in NCERT also only P is given. Now let's come to the second type of placentation, that is axile placentation. So why the name axile? It is related to the word axis. Okay. So here the ovules will be attached to the placenta in a multilocular ovary along the axis of the ovary. Okay. So here you can see on the left hand side, this is the axis. So on the axis of the placenta, the ovules are born, right? So this is one axis, this is another axis, this is another axis, and on these axes, the ovules are attached, right? Therefore, the name axile placentation is given to such type of arrangement. Okay, and here you can see that there is a multilocular ovary. Okay, multilocular ovary. Examples will be China rose, tomato and lemon. Here I have also added the picture of tomato. Here you can see even if you cut a tomato at your homes, you will see such type of placentation. Here you can see this is one axis. Okay, this is the axis and this is the horizontal axis, and on these axes seeds can be seen very clearly, right? So where are the seeds or the ovules present? Along the axis of the placenta, therefore it is known as axile placentation. Okay, you can try to cut a lemon also, and there also you can check. Now let's come to the third type of placentation, that is parietal. Now parietal word is related to periphery. Periphery. Okay, so here the ovules will be seen along the periphery. Okay, so ovules develop on the inner wall of the ovary or the peripheral part of the ovary. Okay, example will be mustard and argemone. And here I have added picture of a cucumber. In this also parietal placentation can be seen. I have added this cucumber because this you can easily see at your homes, right? In especially in summers, we always have this cucumber at our home, so you can easily check. You cut the cucumber and try to see this type of placentation. Okay, the seeds are arranged in this manner. They are attached at the peripheral wall, right? At the peripheral wall, and they face towards the center. Okay, so the ovules are facing towards the center, but they are attached at the peripheral wall. So this type of placentation is known as the parietal placentation. And one of the specialities of the parietal placentation is that originally the ovary is one chambered, but due to the development of a false septa, it becomes two chambered. Okay, so ovary becomes two chambered due to the formation of a false septum. So if I ask you a question, or if anywhere it is asked that in which type of placentation a false septum is present, it will be a parietal placentation. Or if examples are given in options, then you can remember cucumber or mustard or argemone. Okay. So in these cases, a false septum will be present. Now let's come to the next type of placentation, that is the free central. So it is again clear from the name itself that it will be present at the center of the ovary, okay, and it will not be attached to any part. So it will be free central. Examples are dianthus and primrose. Here the ovules are born on the central axis, on the center part. On the left hand side, we have the diagram that is mentioned in the NCERT, and on the right hand side, I have added a picture. Okay, here you can see on the center, the ovules are present. Okay, on the central axis. And here, can you see any septa? No, there is no septa, so septa is absent. So two type of questions can be formed related to septa. In which type of placentation a false septum is present, so that will be parietal placentation, and in which placentation septa is totally absent, so it will be the free central type of placentation. Okay, so do not get confused. Now the last type of placentation is the basal placentation. Basal, again, it is related to the word base. So here the placenta develops at the base of the ovary, and there the ovules will be born. Okay, so ovules will be present at the base of the ovary. Okay, example will be sunflower and marigold, and here single ovule will be attached to it. Okay, now look at this figure. This is the ovary, and at the base of this ovary, ovule is attached. Okay, so I hope you understood the types of placentation. What were the placentation types? First one was marginal. Second one was axile, that means along the axis. Then third one was parietal, that means along the periphery of the ovary. And fourth one was free central, that means at the center or the central axis. And the last one is basal, that means at the base of the ovary. Okay, so you have to remember these names along with the examples of each one of them. I think you can easily remember two types of placentation, three types of placentation. First one marginal, that is very easy, that is seen in P. Then second one axile, because you can easily see or observe the axile placentation at your homes in tomato or lemon. So that is also easy. And the parietal one is also easy because cucumber is also available at our homes, so that you can see. And for others, you have to remember, because these such as dianthus or primrose, these are generally not available at our homes, so that you should remember. Now the next topic is the fruit. So we have talked about the ovule. Ovule will later on develop into the seed, right? And what about the ovary? Ovary will later on develop into the fruit. So first we will be discussing the fruit that is formed from the ovary, and after this we will be discussing about the seed that will be formed from the ovule. Okay. So what is a fruit? This is the fertilized ovary. Okay. Fertilized ovary. Fertilized or matured ovary. So when the ovary get fertilized and then it is matured, it becomes a fruit. Okay. And what is parthenocarpic fruit? Partheno means false. Okay. So these are known as false fruit because they are formed without fertilization. So generally fruits are formed by after fertilization, but if they are formed without fertilization, then this type of fruits will be known as parthenocarpic fruits, and the process will be known as parthenocarpy. Parthenocarpy. Okay. So this is the general thing about the fruit. It develops from the ovary, okay, and the ovule will develop into the seed. Now, what is a drupe? What do we mean by drupe? Drupe is also a type of fruit which is developed from the monocarpillary superior ovary. So when the fruit is developed from monocarpillary and superior ovary, it is known as drupe. And what is the speciality of the drupe? In this case, what will you see that the seed is enclosed into a stony covering. Okay, so this you can remember. This will help you to identify a drupe. How will you identify a drupe among a number of fruits? So always a drupe will have a stony covering that will be enclosing the seed. Okay, you will not find the seed directly from a drupe. For example, if I ask you to cut a guava, okay, you have seen the guava and you have eaten it. So if you cut a guava, will you find the seeds directly? Yes, you will directly find the seeds. But if you cut a mango, will you find the seeds directly? No, you will not find the seed. In this case, the seed will be enclosed into a stony covering. So it means that the mango is a drupe. So in every fruit where the seed will be enclosed into a stony covering, in that case the fruit will be the drupe. Okay. So let's see how mango is a drupe. Here you can see, if you cut a mango, you will get this part. Okay. So many of you might think that this is the seed of the mango, but this is not the seed of the mango. Okay. How will the seed look? if you open this stony part or break this stony part, you will get this seed inside this stony part, right? So this is the seed. This is the seed which is covered by a stony covering. Okay, stony covering. So this stony covering is not the seed. Seed is enclosed inside it. Okay, therefore it is known as the drupe. Now other parts of the fruits will be, see, fruit can fruit can be divided into two parts. First one will be the seed and the second part will be the pericarp. Okay, pericarp. So other than seed, the parts will be known as the pericarp. Okay, the parts which are covering the seed will be the pericarp. Now this pericarp will be further divided into three parts. The innermost part of the pericarp, that will be known as the endocarp. The middle part of the pericarp will be known as the mesocarp, and the outermost part of the pericarp will be known as the exocarp or the epicarp. Okay, exo or epi. So here you can see that the seed is enclosed within this covering, stony covering, right? So this stony covering is also part of the pericarp, okay? Because seed has only two parts. The fruit has only two parts, a seed, and all the other parts will be the pericarp, okay? So all the other parts except the seed are pericarp. Now, what are the different parts of pericarp? So this innermost part, that is the stony part, is the endocarp. Okay, or we can say the seed kernel of the mango is the endocarp, innermost part of the pericarp. Outside the endocarp, you will see that the fleshy edible part, that is the mesocarp. Okay, so middle part is the mesocarp, that is the edible part of the mango or the pulp of the mango. Okay, so in case of mango, we can see that mesocarp is the edible part of the fruit. Okay, and outside the mesocarp, this peel of the mango, which we take out first, is the outermost, that means the exocarp or the epicarp of the mango. Okay, so which was the edible part? Mesocarp was the edible part. Now let's discuss about the coconut. We have already discussed the mango, in which the edible part was the mesocarp. Okay, here the mesocarp will not be the edible part. Let's see. We have a diagram here. Let me zoom this. Okay, so here you can see that the innermost part, that is the white colored portion that is edible, is the endosperm. Okay, so this white colored edible part is the endosperm. Okay, and outside this endosperm, all the parts together are known as the pericarp. Okay, so pericarp will contain three different parts. So the innermost part of the pericarp, that is surrounding this edible portion, is stony in nature again. Okay, that is hard shell. So that is the endocarp. So in this case, the endocarp is the hard shell that is surrounding the endosperm. Okay. And how is endosperm formed? It is formed as a result of double fertilization. We don't have to study the double fertilization here. We will be discussing this in class 12. Okay. So this innermost part of the pericarp is endocarp, that is a hard shell. Okay, and that is surrounding the endosperm. Now outside this hard shell, you will see this husk. Okay, fibrous husk. If it is not clear to you, I'll write it here. Fibrous husk. This dry portion, okay, this husk portion, this is the middle part of the pericarp and this is the mesocarp. Okay, so fibrous husk is the mesocarp. So you can see that this is not edible. Can you eat this dry husk of the coconut? No. So here you cannot eat the mesocarp, whereas in case of mango, the fleshy part was the pulp of the mango was the mesocarp, so that was edible. Now the outermost part of this will be the exocarp. Okay, so outermost layer of this pericarp will be the exocarp. Got it? Now if I ask you which is the edible part of the pericarp, then what will you say? Definitely exocarp cannot be eaten because it is the outermost. Then mesocarp, that is the dry husk, it also cannot be eaten. But this innermost part of the pericarp, that is the hard covering that is surrounding the endosperm, that can be eaten, okay, along with the endosperm. So we eat this white portion, and when we eat this white portion, sometimes these are sold in the market when they are cut into pieces and they are sold. So that brown covering is also available, okay, and we can eat that. So we can eat the endocarp of the pericarp. Okay, so in this case, the edible part of the pericarp is endocarp. Okay, let's see another picture. Here you can understand well. Okay, if you have eaten this type of coconut, you can understand this white portion, that is the endosperm, is eaten. Okay, that is edible, and this brown portion is also edible, right? We can eat this brown portion. This is the hard shell, and that is the endocarp. This part is the endocarp. That means the innermost part of the pericarp. Okay, and outside this, all the things were not edible. So understood? So only these two fruits are in syllabus. But here I have added this picture of the peanut. Why? Just to let you know that it is not necessary that any part of the pericarp will be edible, because in mango, mesocarp was edible, in coconut, endocarp was edible. But what about this fruit? Here we have the seed. This is the seed. Inside we eat the seed, right? But outside the seed, this part is the pericarp. Now this pericarp is so thin that we will not be able to distinguish the three different parts of the pericarp. So it is very difficult to distinguish the endocarp, mesocarp, and the exocarp. So here all these parts are not edible. So this complete pericarp has to be thrown off. Okay. So here none of the parts of the pericarp is edible. Only the seed is edible. I just wanted to show you. So the cases can be very different in different types of fruits. Okay. It's not necessary that all the fruits will be of same type. So here we have to focus on the food that is mentioned in our syllabus only. Now the fruit is completed. Fruit was developed from the ovary after fertilization. Similarly, we have already discussed that the ovules after fertilization will develop into the seed, right? So seed is nothing but the fertilized ovule of a plant. Okay, fertilized ovule. And we know that the ovule, the fertilized ovule or the seed will consist of an embryo. It will have an embryo inside which will later on develop into a plant, right? And it will have cotyledons. Cotyledons. Cotyledon is that part of the seed which will store the nutrients, okay, and it will provide food to the growing embryo. Okay, now depending on the number of cotyledons, the seeds can be of two types: dicot and monocot. Dicot seeds will consist of two cotyledons, and monocot seed will consist of one cotyledons. So let's discuss them one by one. First, we will discuss about the dicotyledonous seeds, or in short, we can say dicot seeds. Okay, so dicot means what? Di means two, and cotyledons means having two cotyledons. Okay, so the seeds which have two cotyledons are known as the dicotyledonous seeds. Here, what is cotyledon? These are leaf-like parts of the embryo which stores nutrients or the food. Okay, so I have made one mistake here. I said that the seed will consist of embryo and cotyledons. Actually, cotyledon is the part of the embryo. Here, just correct it. The ovule will consist of two parts, that is seed coat and the embryo. Okay, seed coat and the embryo. And the cotyledon is the part of the embryo only. So this you can understand with the help of this figure. On the left figure, this is the brown colored gram, right? Gram is a seed. So here this brown colored portion is the outer covering of the embryo. Okay, this is known as the seed coat. Even this seed coat has two layers. So there is an outer layer called testa, and the inner layer of the seed coat will be known as the tegment. Okay. Outer layer of the seed coat is testa, inner layer of the seed coat is tegment. So this is one part of the seed coat, and the other part of the seed is the embryo that is present inside this seed coat. Okay, that is well protected by this seed coat. So what is the function of the seed coat? It protects the embryo. Okay, now have a look at the embryo on the right hand side. This is the embryo. In this, you can clearly see there are two cotyledons. Two leaf-like structures can be seen, yellow colored, two yellow-colored leaf-like structures. These are the cotyledons which have the stored food materials for the growing embryo. Okay, and then in the middle of this embryo, there will be an axis. So this is the axis, embryonal axis. It is known as the embryonal axis, and this embryonal axis has two parts. The upper part is known as the plumule and the lower part of this axis is known as the radicle. Okay. So in the beginning only we had discussed that the shoot system develops from the plumule and the root system develops from the radicle, right? So this radicle, that is the lower part of the embryonal axis, which will give rise to the roots, and the upper part of this embryonal axis, that is the plumule, will give rise to the shoot of the plant when this embryo will become a plant. Okay. So what are cotyledons? These are the leaf-like part of the plant's embryo which stores the nutrients or food. Then, if you look at this first picture, that is the picture of the gram, brown colored gram, here you can see two labeling here. One is micropyle and the other is hilum. So what is micropyle? Micro means small. Okay. Micro means small and pile means pore. So there is a small pore here above the hilum through which water will enter into the seed, because we have to grow plant from the seed. So we have to water the seed. So how will the water enter into the seed? It will enter through this small pore above the hilum that is known as the micropyle. Okay. So it will help in the entry of water and oxygen, because the embryo has to breathe. So for respiration, oxygen is required, so that oxygen will also enter into the seed through this micropyle. Okay, so micropyle helps in the entry of water and oxygen into the seed. Okay, and then what is hilum? We have discussed that the ovules are attached to the placenta, or we can say ovules are attached to the ovary, right? So they have to be attached there, or in other words, we can say seeds will be attached to the fruit, because we can use the words ovules and seeds interchangeably and ovary and fruits interchangeably. Okay. So either you can say that the ovules are attached to the ovary, or you can say the seeds are attached to the fruits. So this hilum will help in the attachment of the seed to the fruit. So what is hilum? It is a scar on the seed coat that helps in the attachment of the seed to the fruit. Okay. So I hope you understood this diagram. And the second diagram, also I have explained two cotyledons for the storage of food materials. Then there is an embryonal axis in between the embryo. The upper part of the embryonal axis will be plumule, known as plumule, which will give rise to the shoot system. And the lower part of the embryonal axis will be known as radicle, which will give rise to the root system of the plant. Okay. So this was all about the dicot or dicotyledonous seeds. Now we come to the structure of a monocotyledonous seeds, or in short we can say the structure of a monocot seed. So as the name suggests, mono means one. So it will have only one cotyledon. Now, what was the role of the cotyledon? Storage of food materials. So if there is only one cotyledon, then definitely less materials will be stored, because the earlier dicot seeds had two cotyledons for storing food materials. So here, how will that requirement of food material be balanced? So that will be balanced with the help of the endosperm. Okay, so to balance that requirement of the food or the nutrients, endosperm is present in the monocot seeds. So we can say that the monocot seeds are endospermic. Endospermic. That means they contain the endosperm, and this endosperm will provide nutrition to the growing embryo. Okay. And if you look at this figure on the right hand side, here you can see that in this monocot seed, the major portion, the upper major portion is occupied by the endosperm. Okay, so this seed is divided into two parts, the upper part, that is a major part, and the small lower part. So this upper major part is occupied by the endosperm. And why so much endosperm is present? To provide nutrition to the growing embryo. So where is the embryo here? In case of dicot seed, the embryo was present in the middle and the cotyledons were present on the side. Here the food storage part, that is the endosperm, is located on the upper portion of the seed, and therefore the embryo are present on the side of this lower side of the seed. Okay, here in the side lower side portion embryo is present. Again you can see the labeling plumule and radicle. So what are plumule and radicle? Again, the upper part of the embryo, that is the plumule, which will give rise to the shoot, and the lower part of the embryo, that is radicle, which will give rise to the root. Now, one more thing you can observe here, that the endosperm and the embryo is not merged together. Okay, these two parts, the upper parts and the lower parts, are well separated. Okay, they are completely separated by these lines, by these shaded lines. So, how they are separated? They are separated by a layer of protein that is known as allurone layer. Okay, so allurone layer is a protein rich layer. It is made up of protein, and this layer is separating the endosperm and the embryo. Okay. Now, another thing you can see here, that the plumule is covered by the sheath known as coleoptile. So what is coleoptile? It is a sheath that is covering the plumule. So this is the covering of the plumule. Whereas the radicle is also covered by a sheath that is known as coleorhiza. So this lowermost portion of this is coleorhiza, that is the covering of the radicle. Okay. Now we know that this monocot seed will have only one cotyledon. So what is the name of that cotyledon? In this case, the cotyledon has a special name, and that is scutellum. Okay. So this is the scutellum. Okay. This is the shield shaped cotyledon. So here what will be the shape of the cotyledon? It is a shield shaped cotyledon. Whereas in case of the dicot seed, the shape was like leaves. Okay, so that was a leaf like cotyledon. Here it is shield like cotyledon. Okay, so the shape is also different in dicot and monocot. The number is different of the cotyledons, and the shape of the cotyledon is also different. So remember the difference between the dicot and monocot seed. Now let's read what is written. All these lines are also written in your NCERT, so you can read from there also. Monocot seeds are endospermic. We already discussed. Endospermic means they will have endosperm to provide nutrition to the growing embryo. Now here there is an exception. Generally, most of the monocots have endosperm, but there is an exception, that is orchids, which do not have the endosperm. Similarly, in case of dicot seeds, majority do not have endosperm. But again, there will be an exception, that is the castor. So note it down. This is also given in NCERT. Castor is a dicot, but it has endosperm. It has endosperm. So castor is an exceptional dicot seed. Castor seed will be an exceptional type of dicot seed which will have endosperm, and orchids will have seed which do not have endosperm, although they are monocots. Okay. So exceptions you always have to remember. Then in the seeds of the cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. So this line also you should remember, because this is mentioned in the NCERT. Okay. So what type of seed coat will be present in cereals such as maize? So it will be membranous. Membranous seed coat will be present. Okay. And it will be fused with the fruit wall. Then outer covering of the endosperm separates the embryo by allurone layer. So we have already seen that the endosperm and the embryo is well separated, and these are separated by a protein rich layer that is known as the allurone layer. Okay, this is made up of protein. Then the embryo is small and it is situated in a groove at one end of the endosperm. Since majority of the portion of the seed is occupied by the endosperm, therefore the embryo has very less space left. Okay, there, that is why it is situated in a groove at the end of the endosperm. Okay, then it consists of large shield shaped cotyledon called scutellum. What is the name of the cotyledon of monocot seeds? Scutellum. And what is the shape of this cotyledon? Shield. Okay, it looks like a shield. And then there is a short axis with a with a plumule and a radicle. So the upper part of the axis will be plumule, the lower part of the axis will be the radicle. Okay, plumule will give rise to the shoot, radicle will give rise to the root. Then they are enclosed in a sheath called coleoptile and coleorhiza respectively. So this also we have seen in the figure that the plumule is covered or enclosed in the coleoptile, whereas the radicle is enclosed in the coleorhiza. Okay. So R for radical, R for rhiza. So from this you can try to remember radical is related to rhiza. So radical is enclosed by the coleorhiza, whereas the plumule has P letter in it and the coleoptile has P letter in it. So the plumule is enclosed within the sheath called covered by the sheath called coleoptile. Okay. So we have completed the fruit and seed. So here we complete this chapter. I have tried to explain this chapter in the best possible way. I hope this is clear to you. But even if you have any doubt regarding the chapter, please do not hesitate to mention your doubts in the comment section. I will be replying to all your comments. Okay. So we will get back with another session soon. That is the next chapter, Anatomy of Flowering Plants. Till then, keep learning, keep scoring high. Thank you so much.